So do that and be happy and die. Don't make trouble for the political elites. I don't think that is going to be the case anymore because kita dah lepas garis takut. We have gone past that. We have tasted that sunlight.
Welcome back to Yamcha Sessions. Today we have YB, Fahmi. So Andrew told me before the podcast, your name is pronounced as Fadzil, not Fadzil.
That's right.
Oh.
Which coincidentally, I know we're just starting, right?
Oh no, it's okay.
I have to tell the story because it was Raya recently. So a whole bunch of, we went to visit, my dad, and then it dawned on us that it was only until very recently that even he himself, my dad, Mr. Fadzil, pronounced his name Fadzil.
Oh my God, his whole life is a lie.
Yeah, I mean his whole identity, and it's like, oh my God! And then it was one of those, kind of existential moments, and you could see it exploding, like.
I think it's our, because Malaysia is a relatively new country, right? Like if you think about it, we are all like from China and all that. So actually our name isn't even Ng. So I'm Jonathan Ng. He's Andrew Ng. But if you trace back our word, right? And I don't speak Mandarin, so don't call me out on it, right? And I can't even read. But all I do know is actually we are Wu. So I think, right, my great-grandfather didn't know how to write, and he just scribbled something down.
Yeah. Actually, I know that a lot of people had their names, the names of their children, miswritten or mispronounced when they had to get the registration done at the police station back in the day.
See?
I legit feel my name Poige was misspelled or something. I really feel so.
His name is really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it's Poige. You guess how do you spell Poige?
Poigghai.
Oh, that's one point, bro. That's why he's politician.
No, I had it in my
On point.
As an Indian name, it's actually quite weird because normally you have Anak Laki in the middle.
Yeah.
You don't have like a,
So
No, I have anak laki. So my Sarana Poige anak laki Ganesha.
but
I
it's
see.
additional.
Yeah.
But no one calls you Sarah.
Used to.
Okay.
There are people who still call me Sarah lah, but now mostly calls me Poige.
Okay. Because it is quite unique.
It's very
I know.
unique.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
unique.
so I always felt that my mom mispronounced my name because when I was young, I was writing in the thing, then she would spell the name wrongly. Then I'm like, you're spelling my name wrongly,
But did she give you the name?
Yeah, she gave me a name.
That's
so I'm like, you
terrible.
don't even know how to spell my name. So then I asked myself, am I spelling my name correctly? So I don't care. I just take, this is how you spell my name.
It's interesting because like my full name is Ahmad Fahmi bin Mohamed Fadzil.
Okay.
So we were talking about my dad, and my dad comes from a generation of Malaysians, Malay Malaysians, whose names were, there was that whole transition between Jawi and Roman.
Oh, interesting.
Romanized letters. So at that time, maybe in the 50s, 60s, 40s, 30s, if you were to look at names like Yaakob, for example, right?
Yeah.
So Yaakob, it used to be spelled Yaacob.
Oh, wow.
So you've got...
Right.
Very like Jacob, actually.
Yeah. But that spelling, Yaakob, Yaacob. And then another famous, like Malay politician, Tengku Razali. It's not Razali, it's Razaleigh, Lee.
Wow, like
like
that's
Riley.
German.
Yeah,
That's
like, no, that's like, I think that's like
Raleigh.
Razali. So at that time, you have I think a lot of the spelling. People were trying to get, if you were to look at Dewan Bahasa manuals at that time,
Like the Kamus stuff.
no, they actually had manuals for how to convert from Jawi to Rumi.
Oh, wow.
So because everything used to be written in Jawi before, so they would give approximate spellings. So a lot of the transliteration that happened at that time is due to the shift between Jawi and Rumi, Roman. So the other interesting thing is, like, I've got a younger brother and an older brother.
Yeah.
Got it.
And we're all Ahmads. And we also come from a generation. I mean, if you look at names, that's also quite interesting because you've got, how many people are now named Andrew Andrew and John.
Yeah.
Right?
Too many.
Like
I know 10 Johns at this point.
Yeah. But they are your age. I don't know whether people's children now, if they're born now, what names would that be?
Oh,
Right.
Probably something unique like Elon Musk's kid.
Yeah. Yeah, like
A dash whatever.
A dash 5, 6,
Yeah, XY.
XC40. So that's an interesting thing. And as an MP, because I get to know like schools and kids, and then you can see like there are certain years, kids who are like standard 1, even my son, he was in standard 1 2 years ago, and we saw the list. Almost every kid has, you can tell it's a generational thing. So
for sure.
Like girls' names are like Nur Batrisha or something like that.
Oh, they're bringing in like very Western in.
No, it's like quite, I don't know, flowery. It's quite.
I think it's also because, and I know you studied in the States, but when you study in the States, it's so difficult because you're a Malaysian and your first name and your surname is often confused with your middle name. You get what I'm saying,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Right? So I think my dad, his name is Ng Chi K, right? He goes in there and he's like the most confused man ever, right? He goes to the UK. So Ng is his first name, but it's also his last name. What?
Yeah, it's trippy.
I think that's why he's like, you know what, I'm just going to give these kids English names, save them the trouble. And I think our generation is probably going to name our kids some kind of anime character, like Goku or something.
Bro, I would
Not me,
love
man.
to name my kid Goku.
Probably
man.
you can tell it's for a fact.
Yeah.
It's like unique names.
Yeah. How many kids, are named after characters from Frozen, for example?
Elsa shot up after. Right.
See what I mean?
True.
It's pop culture and everything, right?
Yeah.
It is.
So it shapes everything.
Hey, wait, guys, we forget to introduce.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. We forgot to introduce. I just realized we forgot to baca ours.
This is going to be a good podcast, I can tell.
Okay. All right, guys, today we are with the one and only.
Everybody is one and only.
That is fact. It's a fact, though.
You're unique like everybody else.
Yeah.
You know what? We give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, lah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
go.
Thank you, Poige. So, I got that right. I said it. My name is Fahmi Fadzil. I'm the Member of Parliament for Lembah Pantai. I'm 41 years old. I was born and raised in PJ, Damansara Heights, Bangsa.
Ooh.
And I went to do my chemical engineering bachelor's
Purdue.
degree at Purdue University in the US. And I was there when September 11 happened.
Oh, wow.
So that was
Shit,
the most amazing time to be in the US. So
Everybody had a good time in the US.
Yeah.
Yours was 9/11. His was Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Mine was, I don't know, Afghan war, I guess. Iran, I don't know. Obama, like shit, it's Obama.
Obama.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay lah. But I think it changes as well. You can tell. And I think during that 9/11 period, because Andrew and I, we used to go to the US quite often. We have family there. So we used to go to San Francisco a lot. And it's very left-wing lah, right? You can tell very liberal, right? Then as time passes, right, you can tell that when the Trump administration came in and he studied in New York, it's like you can see the true colors of certain Americans. Right?
Yeah. It was all a facade this whole time. They were hiding something dormant within them or something. I don't know.
I mean, it was interesting when I was there, and September 11 happened, and I'm a reformasi baby in a sense, right? So I really got to know about Malaysian politics and about society, the kind of political and societal challenges in society because of reformasi. And at that time, we were like, okay, every time you wanted to protest in the streets or go anywhere, you'd be arrested, beaten up, chased away. And a couple of years later, I was in the States, and then September 11 happened, and then there was the war on Afghanistan, I think, that came first. And I attended like numerous rallies, in Indianapolis, in New York.
Wow.
How was the rally there? Is it better or worse compared to our birthday?
I think it's an accepted culture. I think if you go to a lot of college campuses,
It's kind of a cultural thing.
it is a cultural
They
thing.
rally to get their stuff.
People. I remember on campus, which was like quite a culture shock for me, seeing people. There were people exchanging ideas in the lawn of the campus, and people who agree or disagree with each other, and they would debate, and they would fight it out with words, not with fists. Right, and that to me was like, whoa, okay, this is interesting. I'm just going to sit down and just
Such a vast difference compared to here.
Yeah,
Right.
but I think the thing is, in the 60s, we used to have that
Oh, is it?
in University Malaya. So they used to have a speaker's corner, and around the time 1969, 1970s, early 70s up to 74, when AUKU was put in place, the student movement in University Malaya was among the most vibrant in I dare say, except with the exception probably of Indonesia, right? So at that time we used to have a lot of people talking about the disparity in society, about poverty, about openly, and
open discussion.
Yeah, open discussion. And you know what's really interesting, and at that time, it's like a lost. It's it's like a lost history of sorts. So I've got a friend, also a namesake, and people don't really confuse us, but sometimes confuse us. His name is Fahmi Reza.
Oh, I was going to get to that question. You already,
bro.
So he's your friend.
He's
Can you give me his number?
Yeah, I can. He's
nice.
He's not here right now.
Okay,
he's not here.
I'll ask him. No, yeah, I know.
Ah.
So
I like that smirk. I know.
So we will get to that shortly. But,
Okay.
So Fahmi Reza used to have this performance. We're both performers. In fact, Fahmi Reza is not here right now because he's doing a performance at an arts festival in Brussels. So
What in the? I thought he couldn't travel abroad.
Yeah, bro. I thought he's banned or some stuff.
Yeah, I know.
But he finds a way.
He legitimately found a way, and they managed to get out.
This guy is
But
power, man.
he's coming back because he won't run away. I mean, it's his principle.
Yeah, I can tell. He's got the love for the country.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah.
And he used to do this performance about the student movement in Malaysia. And what was really interesting at that time, the student movement was so powerful, they actually made changes and they could fight the Vice Chancellor of University Malaya, who was Unku Aziz. And he's probably one of the most storied Vice Chancellors of University Malaya. And they forced him to do a number of things. And it was a fight. Wow, you mean you blockaded the university? You didn't allow people to come into the university? What was going on? And then they had things like peaceful demonstrations for the farmers, or rather the what do you call it, the penore getah? Rubber tappers in Baling, because the price of rubber in 1972, 71, the global price of rubber had fallen through, right? And a lot of the rubber tappers were facing serious hardship, and there was a death in Baling. So they got together and they had a huge rally on campus, and it was huge. And then after that, all of them got arrested.
Wow!
So including Anwar Ibrahim. So he was one of the chief instigators. You know who you should get on Yamcha sessions at some point is Hishamuddin Rais. Not Hishamuddin Hussein, who's the...
I was thinking...
I thought you were like, wow!
I'm like, if you got him on speed dial, I mean, like, yo, let's go.
I will give you Hishamuddin
Sure.
Rais's
Yes,
number.
bro.
He is by far the most colourful character you'll meet. Yeah,
Colourful?
Yeah.
It's going to be like, hi, selamat pagi. 我的名字是 Hishamuddin. Welcome, welcome.
Yes.
Cool. I think it's maybe the setting also at the time was very school related rather than now when we do protests. Because I think most students, and I don't know what, you can call me out on this, right? When you are in Malaysia, right, there is this like British system where you just kind of listen to the teacher, especially our generation, the 90s kids-ish. And when you sit down and you listen to the teacher, you just memorize, regurgitate, right? And I think only when I went to the States, I realized it could be an open dialogue, and they graded you on that. And from what I know, I did a bit of research, is you studied in Taylor's as well.
Yes.
So you did ADP?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Wow. Everybody is ADPing, right? Yes, we have
No, it's just
ADP,
coincidentally.
ADP,
It's because
ADP,
Andrew
bro.
and I were from ADP as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Not me. I went Tasi,
Were you in
bro.
SS15? SS15 ADP?
I was at SS15. That's
I
right.
was the last batch in SS15.
Oh no, really?
They moved to Lakeside, which is so sad.
Gosh, it's so sad.
I know. Subang SS15 was the best.
Yeah,
ADP.
it was.
Top floor.
So I just want to share one thing quite interesting. So when I was at Taylor's, and this was at the height of Reformasi, and I was in ADP, but I had friends who were doing A levels.
Yeah.
So this strange mix of friends and friendships that we had at that time. There was a lecturer who taught literature in A levels, and he was one of the principal primary instigators to get me and my
politics.
friends to go out and
protest.
participate in the demonstrations at that time.
Wow.
So he said, don't believe what you read, don't, what you listen on, what you watch on TV, what you hear on the radio. Go out, see for yourself what's happening in the country, decide for yourself.
That is sage advice.
Yeah.
That's sage
100%,
advice.
yeah.
It
Even
still
listen-
happens today, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Don't listen to other people, just make your own decision. And I thought that was, one of the most pivotal things that changed for me. And of course, at that time, you're so idealistic. You're like, oh, I want to change the world. And anything, let's do anything apart from, go out and protest and all.
Because you're bright, bushy tail, because you're young.
Yeah, you're like, wow, bright eye, like, oh, wow, we can protest. You mean
Yep.
we can express ourselves in this way? So we had one friend who had returned from Brown in the US. And of course, at that time, there was the Asian financial crisis. So
Yes.
there were a lot of Malaysians who couldn't go immediately abroad.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these pairing programs really helped. So he came back and then he said, we need to protest and free Tibet. I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
Tibet. I know Tibet in the movies,
Yeah, but there was this movement called Free Tibet, and it's kind of watered down.
very
Really
familiar.
long
It's very
ago,
familiar.
right? Free Tibet.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
quite,
what?
quite some time
very
ago.
long
Freedom
from
Yeah.
what though?
Free Tibet from
Bro, I think I was in high school at that time.
people who were oppressing them at that time.
I see.
Yeah, and it was something which I guess started in the US stateside. So he brought it back, and then we had this idea. Oh, we need to chain ourselves to the school gate, to Taylor's gate, and chain ourselves as a sign of protest. Free Tibet, and we're like, okay, what has in hindsight? We're like, ayo, what did we want to say? How is this in relation
It doesn't even
to?
relate to.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
But I guess, if people talk about it, that's how you get people to talk about it. It's
Free Malaysia.
if you do something different and radical, that's when people see things happen, right? Versus just having conversations. But of course, that was a different time, and now you can have conversations online. People can share them. So
Yeah.
I think you had to have an impact in a very physical way. Like, in the US, they'll tie themselves to trees. Like, don't cut the trees. And that's
Yeah.
a bit more relatable. lah,
Malaysia,
but
I
like,
think you
get the
go
point.
there, they cut you too, bro. I mean,
yeah, you could get cut. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I'm
right.
scared, man.
Wait, I need to down back.
Yeah, bro,
we
we flying, bro.
Yeah, but I love this.
Yeah.
So I know you did Purdue, and then you did chemical engineering in Purdue, right? So
Forced or out of interest?
Partly as a challenge to myself.
partly as a challenger.
Yeah.
Wow,
Wow.
damn, relax, bro.
And
Okay, now. I was going to say, okay, so the education system in Malaysia is very British. It's only when I went to ADP, it's when I realized you're graded on conversation. You got to speak up in class. You got to challenge points. And that's only when the teacher the professor, will recognize you, right? So I think because of that time, right, when you go to the US and then you learn all this, or when you go to ADP rather, then only you realize, hey, I can have conversations. Versus the majority of us who rather just sit silent, don't you think?
no, I don't think so. I think we have a lot of conversations.
But Mama, I know that.
Mama, when you go and visit people's houses,
Yeah.
right? It's just that we don't formalize it. I don't think it's formalized. I think probably the Malaysian and so-called Asian mindset or idea about authority, that you can't challenge authority directly. This kind of idea, it seems foreign.
It
right?
does.
But at the same time, the one thing which I find very interesting, I did chemical engineering, but at the same time I also did a lot of performance.
Theatre.
Okay.
Theatre, a lot of theatre. That's how I know Fahmi Reza
Ah.
and a whole bunch of people in the arts and filmmakers and musicians, and one of the things that I learned quite early on was about traditional Malay performances, specifically wayang kulit, main petri, mak yong, menora, dikir barat, and this was interesting because I used to do some work with this gentleman named Edin Koo, who runs this NGO called Pusaka, which aims to preserve Malaysian heritage and culture.
I see.
And we were doing a lot of work in
Edin Koo?
Edin Koo, yeah.
Saka is not a book publisher. Ba.
No, it's
Yeah,
it's
that's
an
what I was
NGO. You can check out Edin
Check
Koo.
it, Edin Koo.
He is a columnist with The Vibes, I think, and he's a writer. He used to write a lot with The Star. That's not Edin Koo.
That's Oscar
Yeah.
Isaac.
Yeah.
He's been on a Moon Knight phase. That's
Oh,
why.
I see.
Do you watch Moon Knight?
I have not. I'm scared to look at the tabs, but okay.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Choc loves Moon Knight. He thinks it's good. I don't think so.
Really? I don't know.
I don't know.
I've heard.
You heard
some
good things?
Why we are
strange
waiting?
comments.
I just want to before I just have this question in my mind since we're talking about education, right? When you guys in charge or right now, are there plans to like improve the
Education
system? Because I personally feel like the education system when you standard 1 to standard 6, siapa tu? There's an Indian lady.
How do I spell
No,
his name?
I will spell it for you. No, continue.
Oh, is there any plans to improve our education system? Because like my younger generations, my nephews and everybody, when I ask them how's the education, it's the same as what I was taught.
Is it in English now? I think it's in Malay now, right?
It's in Malay, if I'm not wrong.
Oh, that's Edin cool. Yeah. Oh, he's the guy that's preserving the heritage.
Yes, he does a lot of work, and he's an educationist as well.
I see.
And his father is the late Tan Sri Koo Kay Kim. So
that's
his history professor of University Malaya, and they named a road in PJ after him.
What?
Yeah.
So this guy can literally say,
yeah,
that's my father's road.
Kind of.
So people like,
Damn.
hey, ni kepala ayah got that. Yes.
Yes, yeah, he could, but I don't think he would.
Oh,
but
okay.
but so Edin talking about education and just awareness about our history, Edin made me look at a lot of traditional Malay performances. So
and prior to that, you weren't so into it, lah.
well, when I was in Taylor's, we did a lot of theatre, but the theatre that we did was not Shakespeare, was not so-called Western Shakespeare, Western theatre. So it's about trying to find my own idea, my own conception about what performance can be.
Is it under Vijaya by any chance?
Yes. Oh gosh.
Jesus.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, Vijaya was still around at that time.
Yes.
Salva
he is
Warikma.
timeless.
Yeah, he's
Vijaya Samara Wikrama.
Samara
Yeah.
Wikrama.
Yeah,
He made me
very
climb into his office because he got locked out of his own office.
Yeah, staunch Buddhist. Love him. I love
Yeah,
him.
I've been to his talks.
Yeah,
I'm not a Buddhist myself, but
I've been to
his
his house.
talks. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, okay.
Dude, yeah, man.
Oh, I haven't been to his house.
I want to be in his house now.
But Vijaya has always been known to be one of the greatest lecturers in ADP.
Yeah. He's so there were at least three lecturers in Taylor's at that time who really influenced me. So Edin is a slightly later influence, but early on, Mr. Vijaya, because he taught world religion and theatre.
Yes, world religion, incredible.
And in theatre, the thing which he said that resonates with me and something that I impart even now is you can lie to the whole world, but you can never lie to yourself.
That sounds so much like him.
Yeah,
He gives such sage advice.
Yeah, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, man. He gives such sage advice. I swear.
And the other two lecturers, one was Mrs. Singh. I don't know if you...
Sociology.
Sociology.
Oh wow, she taught me as well.
Yeah.
Wow, this is insane.
Oh gosh, this is like a mini reunion, except that...
Except for he wasn't in ADP.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm not ADP, bro.
She was my sociology professor as well.
Yeah. So that was the first time where, coming out from Reformasi and seeing all these discrepancies, these kind of structural things happening in society. You don't know how to name it, don't know how to talk about it. But then here comes, Mrs. Singh and teaching sociology and talking about, class and
Culture. Class and culture, yeah.
Yeah, so that was an eye-opener for me. The other one is this gentleman who now is a professor in, I think somewhere in Texas.
Wow.
His name is... Oh my God!
I know Fahmi Reza studied in Texas as well.
Clean
right?
this hood.
Yeah, he did, but he didn't finish. He did electrical engineering.
I don't know what's up with you guys in engineering.
Also as
but
a challenge, I reckon.
Yeah,
For the challenge lah.
Clearly,
absolutely.
I went down the wrong route. I should have done something related.
For
to
us, we just want to pass, bro. But yeah, all about the challenge.
Yeah, but I wanna go back to that challenge about
education.
Yeah, bro.
Education, but also Edin, and link it with what I was saying earlier about things like wayang kulit, traditional performance. A lot of these traditional performances are ways for people to say things to a higher authority without necessarily saying it to them directly.
Isn't that like Namewee or even Fahmi?
Yeah, Fahmi Reza,
exactly.
to some extent,
What
except
we're gonna-
he does it quite obviously. Yes. But when you look at a lot of these traditional performances, they're very interesting because they how do you say, they give you some power, right? So if you're a dalang of a wayang kulit, you're the storyteller, you're the puppet master, right? And you're holding these characters and you're telling the story. And sometimes there's this concept in performance called catharsis. It's also in film.
Like release.
Release,
Like,
yeah. So
like
when
a
you
Tarantino
watch,
movie.
that's right.
Yeah.
Which has too much blood.
Too much
release.
catharsis.
Yeah, too much catharsis. But a lot of performances, especially when you look at these traditional performances, they have some form of catharsis. And there's also a form of, sometimes you have a small character or a character which is very powerless, but talks to a very powerful character, and people relate to that. Like, I want to talk to pembesar like this, like
To evoke that emotion, right?
yeah, and sometimes you see in something a little bit of yourself, and in seeing that being played out on screen, then you feel some release. So that's catharsis. So in terms of performance, especially traditional performances, there is a point to some extent for catharsis until you realize that you can't do anything anymore to change the situation. So catharsis has always been seen as something to placate. Let the people have the circuses and the gladiators and see the blood, flow in the stadiums, right? But not spill out into the streets. But sometimes the structural incongruences, the kind of discrepancies, the kind of tensions in society is too much when it spills over into the streets. That's what happened in 1998 with Reformasi. That's what happened also in Indonesia with their Reformasi.
Yep.
And happened in the Philippines in the 80s with Marcos. And of course, today as we're recording this, is the 9th of May. I think the Filipino...
What's that guy's name?
Bongbong Marcos, the son, is going up for election. So performance has a very important role in educating, but also sometimes people feel that it can be some kind of opiate for the masses.
Yeah.
So you can keep people very quiet, or you can agitate. So I think when it comes to a lot of what I've gone through, with Edin and all and traditional performances, it's about finding a sense of self that is post-colonial, like beyond West, East kind of thing. So I don't really describe myself as a theatre maker or a theatre performer or an actor, more of a performance maker. Yeah, so I make performances. I used to still do, even as an MP. I actually went to Tokyo to do a performance in 2019.
Huh?
Yeah. I found a little bit of time.
Got to be careful with the mentioning of Japan and Tokyo. Because he's a big fan of
No.
Japan.
I see.
Yeah.
You'll have to tell me.
No, I've been waiting for 2 years to propose to my girlfriend.
Oh.
Yeah,
In Japan.
The
In
Japanese
Japan.
PM is being a bit.
Oh.
Yeah, man.
I think they just opened up to group tourism in June. They just announced, but yeah.
You should go.
I'm not gonna go in a group, man. I'm gonna go just with her because I want to propose. I've been waiting for so long for this.
Well, sometimes when you go in a group, you can also slip away.
Whoa, man.
Okay, true. Yeah.
You could, but you see, I know we're deviating a lot, right? Okay, but like this one, I have to say, the reason why it's group tourism is because the Japanese government wants to hold people accountable for cases that go up. I don't know whether you know, like, I think it was last week. It's Golden Week in Japan. It's where they have like they have a whole week of holiday, and that's the only time where they can do whatever they want.
Sure.
Right, and even that also they get bored and they're like, I need to work lah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So after Golden Week, he's going to test and see the numbers. So depending on the numbers post Golden Week, that's when he will create new laws to ease border control.
Right.
So if you read all the press releases and his reports, it's always ease. He's very smart with his words.
He's really following this.
Oh, no,
He
clearly
is, bro.
he is.
That's amazing.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah, he's very Kishida is very smart with his words.
Yeah.
So purposely, and he the only reason why he said that is because he was pressured too. Yeah, Japanese yen has been plummeting,
Yeah, it's
right?
historically
and then
at the...
not only that, I think a lot of businesses have moved to Korea because they feel as if they can't deal with this whole don't have manpower in Japan, right?
Closed off borders.
Yeah, and that's why when he went to London, he was actually advocating for believe in Kishida. It says a lot for a Japanese person to say that believe in me, to come and do business. Yeah, but that's a very big segue from education in Malaysia.
Wait, tell me, so how did you enter politics? We keep my question later lah.
Reformasi. Actually, it was because of the education system. All my life, okay, my parents are civil servants. My mom was a PTD officer, pegawai tadbir diplomatic. This is like the creme de la creme of government servants.
servants.
They become, KSUs, TKSUs, DGs. They float. So she was in 11 different ministries. My dad, on the other hand, worked only in one organization, Felda, from 1969 to 2004.
Wow.
So he was in just one organization, but he became the DG and subsequently the MD of the Felda group of companies.
Wow.
So he looked after all of Felda. And in Malaysia, we've got a whole bunch of land.
Yes,
that is
there's a
under
lot
the
of
Felda
land.
schemes, right? And he was part of that administration that actually helped to pay up all of Felda's debt 10 years in advance. They were supposed to finish paying
Damn.
something like
That's insane, man.
10 years
something
in
like
advance.
10 billion. No, they borrowed about 10 billion in the 60s, and they were only supposed to finish paying in 2001.
You
But
paid it before.
yeah, with my dad as the DG, they finished paying in 1991. So
It's an overachiever, lah, basically.
yeah. But it was also because of that overachievement that he managed to save up Felda's cash pile to about 6 billion ringgit. And then in 2003, in 2004, if you remember, we had a change of prime minister between Dr. Mahathir and Badawi.
Badawi, yeah.
And then he had a deputy prime minister by the name of Najib Razak, who then came calling, knock knock, Felda, my dad. Not my dad. I mean, I'm trying to like channel Najib. so he felt that what do you call this? Felda was, he wanted to he didn't want Felda to keep all that money in one place. But 6 billion ringgit, that's
It's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So all of that aside, when I was growing up, it was very interesting because I went to government school, and then I had an opportunity to go to MCKK,
I see.
Go to where, sorry?
Malay College, Kuala Kangsar.
Okay.
So also a so-called creme de la creme, school
Yes.
for Malay students.
Yeah.
But my dad, interestingly, and quite controversially, he said he looks after Felda, which is a completely Malay,
Yes, it is.
looking after just purely kind of. And he said, I don't want my son to go to a school where he only mingles with Malays. So he sent me to a school called Sri Cempaka.
Wow.
Wait a minute.
I see.
That's an international school, right?
Yeah, this-
Chempaka?
Now it is.
Yeah,
It
okay.
At
used
that
to be
time
just it used to be a private school. And when I was in Sri Cempaka, coincidentally, the owner of the school, my parents were all in University Malaya. The same time that Anwar Ibrahim was in University Malaya
Wow.
in the late 60s,
Wow.
at the height of what I said earlier about that golden age of activism, student activism.
I
So
see.
they were all there at the same time. And University Malaya was the only university at that time, right? It was the first and only at that time.
Was it only?
Yeah.
Only?
Yeah. In Malaya and subsequently in Malaysia early, before others came up.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
We take it
insane.
for granted now.
Yeah, man.
But at that time, anyone who's, everyone who's someone went to University Malaya. So, who are the people who went to University Malaya? Ismail Sabri went to University Malaya.
Wow.
The speaker of Dewan Rakyat went to
Yeah.
University Malaya. A whole bunch of people basically went to University Malaya. So, including my parents. So, I went to Sri Cempaka because my dad and my mom
Went to
went to University Malaya with this
the
and
owner
then-
of Chempaka.
the owner of Cempaka. And she said, hey, come. Her name is Datuk Frida Pilos. So I ended up in Form 5 being the only non-Chinese in my class.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
You like me.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I was the only Indian in my class. You are like me,
So I was the only non-Chinese in my class.
Wow.
And I became head prefect. So
Wow. But you look like the type. Not
yeah,
gonna
thanks.
lie.
I don't know. That seems like a put down. But
No, it's the clean cut.
I'm going to drink this water and just pretend you didn't say
It's
that.
the clean cut. I'm telling you. Wait. Let's be real, lah. Do any of us look like head prefect? The answer is no.
Why not? Poige.
Thanks.
I know too much about Pogi to tell him
Thanks.
it's
Thanks.
head
I do
prefect.
look like a head prefect.
He
People will
wishes.
actually,
No.
People will actually listen to me.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Or Andrew.
Nah, man.
Nah.
He looks like, kind of like, quiet guy just typing away.
Andrew looks like startup guy.
Why is this now a podcast where you judge the way I look?
He looks like startup guy. Startup Silicon Valley
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
But education.
edu-
Yeah. The point that I wanted to make is So I grew up in this situation, right? So my parents were senior civil servants. It's interesting because my mom supported Anwar. My dad supported Mahathir.
Have you say this on podcast?
Yeah, why not?
Who do you support?
I of course I'm in Anwar's party.
He's Anwar's
you know?
party, bro.
Yeah. And,
It's a trick question.
Yeah. Right, throw a curveball, you know?
That's fine. And at that time, we never spoke politics at home.
Huh.
So that's why when I went to Taylor's, I felt that this outpouring. And I used to write a lot. I used to write like Saja, which is now, when I look at it, oh my gosh, such purple prose, and it was just luahkan perasaan,
Right.
So at that time, I felt that our education system is meant to, I suppose, it didn't inspire young Malaysians to be inquisitive about what was happening in society.
Far from, man. Far from.
Even till today, I don't
It's
think
the
so.
opposite, I think.
Yeah, and we end up having to learn from other places, from other people.
Yeah, man. Wikipedia, prime resource.
Yeah.
And
I mean-
you discover this in Taylor's.
The thing which I am very upset until this day is how is it that when we were growing up in secondary school, right? Kemahiran hidup, katalah.
Yeah.
Right? How come they never taught us how to file taxes?
That is.
We have this conversation way too often. We every year, especially like the people who are filing taxes for the first time ever, we have this discussion. You've taught me so many things in school, from trigonometry to
Which
calculus.
we don't use, by the way.
which we don't use. Admets, functions.
there's
Why?
no taxes, how to interview for a job,
How to
right?
cook.
Like
The guys don't even learn how to cook.
Yeah.
And that's a fundamental thing. You need to
Yeah.
eat to survive.
That's right.
Takkan you go mama every day, right?
You could.
Yeah.
Not
But
good for you.
lah.
So I think we do need to
Reevaluate lah.
change the education system. I think we do need. And I remember there used to be this NGO called PAGE. So
Like PAGE?
PAGE. So parents.
Association
Persatuan
of-
PIBG or something?
No. That's in every school.
Oh, okay.
But there's this NGO called PAGE, and then they were fighting for education reform. And I think when Pakatan Harapan came into power, they foisted a lot of expectation on Mazli. So I think 2 years, 24 months, it takes you practically a lifetime to change the education system. And I think Mazli didn't have the time. We were not accorded that time to begin the process of changing the education system. I feel bad about that.
I think in that time, right, everybody was damn happy lah.
Yeah.
When there was real change.
We were really happy.
Coincidentally, today is the 9th of May. When we're recording this, it's the 9th of May.
When
There's the 4th anniversary of
When the Sheraton.
of GE 14.
Oh yeah.
Today.
Shit.
So today, 4 years ago, I didn't think that I would win.
All right. Now 4 years ago. Now let's come 4 years forward and ask, what happened, mate? There was like, after you guys win, right? We talked to Hannah about it. We talked to Syed about this as well. We were very happy, because
I never thought I would enjoy the sun that much in
like,
that day.
something actually changed, and then we all went back reverse after that. I mean, we had our TikTok channel. There's a lot of people commenting. Because these are real people commenting. Like, you guys were in power. What do you do? Nothing happened. Stuff like that. So now there's a loss of confidence.
It's a it's a big blow, man.
It's a big blow, And if you were to read the comments, like there are people, who once said like they had confidence, but now they lost.
Yeah.
So how are you guys gonna invoke back confidence to this bunch of people?
Yeah.
To the Rakyat lah.
Yeah, to the
It's-
Rakyat,
it's-
basically.
Sorry,
It's tough. Like, you just brought us down, bro.
I think I remember the day before the announcement that PH won, and like legit, I was scared. I was like, I don't know who I want to win. Obviously, I wanted Pakatan Harapan to win. All right. But I remember I was having a conversation with Vic. And I was at a cafe. Vic is an Indian friend of mine, right? And I together with two other Chinese guys, we were sitting at the cafe and we were like, actually, right, if Pakatan win, right, do you think got riot? Wow, legit scared, But the next day, when I found out the news, I don't know why, right? I was walking to my office, right? The sun shined like brighter, The air felt like crispier, Felt like I was in Japan like that.
for Golden Week.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, I didn't know I could be part of a generation that could have changed. And then, right, Sheraton happened, Mahathir resigned. Wow, I tell you, I was at home. I think that was it pandemic time. Not yet, right? Just before.
It just started.
Just started. And I came back from I think Australia or something like that. And I was talking to my girlfriend and I was like, is this real? Is this really happening? And after day by day, and it kept passing, and then there was the backdoor government and everything. Wow, I tell you, I never felt such sadness. And I'm going to be straight up, right? Like I'm not so well versed in politics. I'm not. I just can feel the vibe of it, right? And when people are happy, I'm like, wow, that's really changed, man. My God. And then when he resigned, right? There's this Muhyiddin came in. Wow, man, I never felt so sad before. I never felt so ashamed in a way. Like we really don't really have democracy. And I think I can speak for a lot of people when they say, I don't know whether my vote even matters. What does it matter? In the end, there's going to be some spin internally, and the rest are just going to be ignored. And that's, I feel, what a lot of us go through. But I don't know how you feel about it.
I remember there are two things that my teacher friends taught me. One was never stop chipping away at the block. Chipping away at the block, right? And the other is we don't start from point zero, which means that it's cyclical, but it is progressing. I remember in 2000 my interest in Malaysian politics happened in 1998, and I first started helping out in elections in 1999 in Bangsa, in Lembah Pantai at the time. Yeah, I was putting up posters. I was like stapling, folding leaflets, handing out. And at that time, riding a bicycle, and couldn't drive yet at that time. So it was really the sense of rebel alliance, wow, we're fighting the evil empire kind of thing.
Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah.
Star Wars.
So it was really that sense. And then, we failed to win Lembah Pantai. And then 2004, we failed completely, with the exception for PKR. We were left with one seat. In 1999, we had five parliamentary seats. And then in 2004, we were reduced to one. So can you imagine, at that time, what that must have felt like?
Terrible.
At that time.
Yeah.
Because remember, 99 happened at the height of when people, were revolting against the idea of Dr. Mahathir. That was essentially what it was, right? At that time. And then 2004 happened partly because one, gerrymandering. So a lot of lines were redrawn. And then
Terrible. I can remember plenty of discussions.
Yes.
Yeah, that went off the rails, man.
Yeah. and then Mahathir stepped down at that time for the first time, right? and then Badawi took over, and there was this feeling of euphoria. And then we were reduced to one seat. At that time, those who were in the party probably felt, in Pakatan Rakyat.
Your efforts were
like, what are we doing? Where do we go? Like this sense of like chicken hilang kepala kind of thing, And then 2008 happened, which was absolutely unexpected. I don't know if you remember 2008, but I remember helping Siva Rasa Rasya in Subang now. At that time, it was known as, now it's known as Sungai Buloh. Previously, it was known as Subang.
Wait, what? Last time Sungai Buloh was named as
Subang, the parliamentary constituency. Sorry. We talk. Yeah, sometimes we leave out the word constituency, right? And I remember on election night in 2008, after I'm still relatively young. I just came back from the States and helping out friends and trying to find work. And I remember, and I'll probably disclose this perhaps for the first time. In that command center, that bilik gerakan, Latifah Koya, who used to be MECC chief, right? Latifah Koya was in the room, and she said, while we were doing the tallying, Siva, if you don't win this time, I'm quitting politics.
Wow.
Siva. So Latifah was telling Siva this, right? And Siva, I know Siva because of my work in the arts.
Yeah.
His wife is a member of the same arts company that I'm in. So Siva brings together the people who are arts activists and human rights activists to help him in his campaign.
He's the glue.
He is a glue, yeah. So then we were like, oh no, what if Siva loses again, for the third time, right? Oh, what are we going to do? And then suddenly that night, We won in Selangor. We won in like 5 states at that time. We didn't win in at the federal level, but
Sure.
PKR went from 1 seat in 2004 to 32 seats
2008.
in 2008. So we went from 1 seat
Wow.
to 32. What happened?
Yeah, what happened?
Okay, so there were many things that happened. One was the first Bersih that happened in 2007.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It was huge, right? I was part of that. I don't know if you guys were part of that.
I was
part
Form
online wise.
4, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We were too young to go lah.
maybe
Yeah,
you were too
we were
young.
too young.
Yeah,
Couldn't go.
2000.
But I know a lot of people who rebel and still went.
yeah. And then that happened. I think it must have been in September, August or September, and then in November there was Hindraf.
Yeah.
So Hindraf happened, and that also drew a lot of attention because I think the way that the police cracked down on those who came out to protest.
Yep.
So there was a lot of discontent
Yep.
at that time. So whether it directly affected the elections or not, at the very least, people felt galvanized about it. And 2008 happened. But remember, after 2008, we won 5 states, and then we were left with 2. So in every other state, Perak, what was it? Perak, Kedah, right? We lost because of defections. So that's why.
We're gonna go to the hopping thing.
Yes. So that's why I say, apa nak kata, we will be our conviction and our resolution will be tested. But it is because of this test that we prove our worth to have the Malaysia that we want. You will be tested. Anwar has been in prison for 11 years out of his 74, 75 years. 11 years.
That's insane, man.
Solitary confinement, right?
And he still comes out. He's still back at it.
Yeah.
It's
So
like
ask him what
insane.
he did in solitary confinement. It must be damn boring, right?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, he said that.
Yeah, he used to sing. He used to sing, and
Oh,
then
wow.
yeah, and then they'd have storms in Sungai Buloh. No, just kidding.
Okay.
Nervous laugh. Please don't scold me. But the point is, never give up. Never stop chipping away at the block, right? And it is difficult. When I went into the fight in 2018, 4 years ago today, I didn't think that I would win. How could I have won on paper when at that time they had moved in Bukit Aman, they had gerrymandered,
Yep.
moved in Bukit Aman, they moved out Brickfields,
Wow.
they effectively removed 10,000 votes who were supportive of PKR and at
Sounds
that
like
time,
gerrymandering is the problem, though.
Yeah,
I'm
it
just
is.
Honestly, yeah,
like
it
at
is.
this point, the
Yeah.
main culprit is the you shouldn't be able to do that.
every country will see some kind of gerrymandering. Even the states, I think that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
huge
They
problem
have
for them.
Yeah.
Same problem.
Yeah. So I think it's about, to some extent, you have to remember why you do this. Like for me, the main reason I'm doing what I'm doing now is, I've got kids now. One's a 9-year-old, one's a 2 going on 3. I want them, by the time they turn 18, to want to choose University Malaya as the university for them to go to. Like my parents chose. I didn't want to choose because AUKU. I don't want to go.
AUKU?
AUKU, Akta University College University. It's what stops you from participating in a lot of things until we rolled it back. So when I was 20, 21, right, AUKU was the main reason I didn't want to go to a public university in Malaysia. So I chose to go to Taylor's and then the States. So it's about education, and it's about the future. It's about our next generation, our kids. Hopefully you all have
I
kids.
think we all feel the same. No, we don't have kids yet, but
Okay.
hopefully we all also still continue to feel the same. Actually, the initial podcast, I mean, the reason why we do this podcast as well is just to have conversations. And then it kind of grew into this whole, if you listen to it, you kind of know the journey of the person behind the career and everything like that. So hopefully we are also doing our part in a way, right? But
no, totally. Just as a quick aside, back in 2000 I used to do some hosting of my own.
yes,
Yeah.
just Andrew's going to bring that up. The fairly current show.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
You want to say something, Andrew? Because you don't really say very much.
He doesn't say much, but
When he say stuff.
It's just the personality trait.
Very good.
I take no insult by it. It's
Like
okay.
good guy, bad guy cop, you know. Wait, you used to do a whole show. Where was that at?
You can find it on YouTube. It's
Yeah,
called
I've
the
seen
Fairly
the
Current
videos.
Show. I interviewed
YouTube?
people like Hannah. People like
you did it before. It was cool, man.
Yeah, back
Honestly,
in the day
yeah.
before we had social media, before we had Facebook. Really, if you were to look at the Fairly Current Show, yeah, see Yasmin Ahmad and Fahmi Reza. See, I
holy
interviewed him
shit.
back in the day,
Dude.
11 years ago.
You interviewed Yasmin Ahmad.
Yes.
Dude, Yasmin Ahmad is insane, man.
Yeah. It was a totally radical, and she's totally subversive. And then Ambika,
No shame, bro. Can help.
what?
Oh, you were under
us-
Pop TV.
Wait,
Yes,
Under
Pop TV. So Pop TV.
Pop TV is insane, man.
Yeah.
It was the Vice of Malaysia in a
Yes,
way.
yes,
Oh,
it
really?
was.
Yeah, man.
Scroll down. Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Apa itu seks? Apa itu darah?
So this was a thing done by Hardesh
Holy shit.
Singh.
He's the guy who went to do Toddy one, right? He went out to drink Toddy one.
No. He
No, man, he did
I don't know. I don't know what he does
You go
now.
scroll a bit. The side project, you see down there. The side project. There is a video on Toddy, right?
Oh.
And Toddy is
7 years
like
ago.
alcohol type of thing, lah.
So-
right?
so we
Yeah, that's
used
the
to
guy,
do-
right? That's the guy, right?
No,
Is that him?
that's not Hardesh. No,
Oh, that's not him.
No.
That's the guy that.
Hardesh is a Singh guy.
Is that Johanan Sen?
It is Johanan Sen.
Do you know Johanan Sen?
I know Johanan Sen
How do you know him?
from Pop TV.
Holy crap-a-moly.
Yeah,
I used to work with him.
Really?
Yeah, in
Why?
advertising.
Oh, okay.
I know. Not exactly the most glamorous, right? So
No.
glam bam, but,
But-
no
but-
thank you, ma'am.
What I want to say is it's stuff like Yamcha sessions, stuff like Pop TV back in the day.
Wow, that's a that's a big compliment, I feel. That's
It's
I don't
it's
know
kind
whether
of-
we are I don't know whether we're close to Pop TV, man. Pop TV is like the underground vice of Malaysia at the time,
totally.
you know.
And
Controversial.
we were doing things like that effing show,
Yeah.
you know. But it all started with the Fairly Current Show. So this guy Hardesh had this idea about interviewing a whole bunch of people at a time when we didn't yet have that platform. We used to host. It was hosted on a website. It wasn't YouTube. Wasn't
Yeah,
around
man.
yet,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know?
man.
It was really quite like
Yeah.
wow.
You had to email people
Yeah.
your website
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
tell them, hey, check it
it's
out.
here, you know, and
No notifications, no subscribe, no
and,
nothing.
And it was the most bare bones punk thing we were doing because we used to have like originally and if you to look at the Yasmin episode, you can see that it's got this. That's Mark Tay, who is the director of the. Oh, that's Yasmin.
I like how he's
the lead.
taping Pop TV to the wall.
Yes.
But I can't believe you guys got Yasmin Ahmad on. That was that's insane.
Yeah, back in the day, you know. And it was sad because it was not long after that she passed away.
Yeah, man.
But what was I just want to show you, like, look at that sign, that Pop TV sign. It's so
It's so makeshift.
makeshift.
I love it though.
It's great. I love it. It's like
It makes a comeback though, I feel. Like, you know, our logo, the Yamcha Sessions logo, it's actually hand drawn on Instagram.
you
Yeah.
just you know, it's like
Yes, like simply I just wanted to get the podcast running at the time. And kind of stuff. Yeah.
so it was this program that really helped me to get to know a whole bunch of people. So I interviewed people like Hannah, people like
That's insane.
yeah, and then that's my mom. I interviewed my mom.
Fauzia Ramli.
Yeah, that's my mom.
Oh, nice.
And then just keep scrolling down. That's Hisham Rais. Oh, you all have to find a way.
Very familiar, man.
Yeah, he's like the most radical. He like his credo is, I will never join a party that accepts me as its member.
Wow,
That's
Yeah.
that's
double
kind of an
layer.
opposing.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
It's a double layer type of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Oh, for the listeners, by the way, we are looking at the Fairly Current Show on YouTube, where you used to host it.
I used to
You were
host
the
it.
only host, right?
I was the only host for
Can
a
I
very long
just
time.
say, Fahmi, you had a serious glow up, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what?
I hope I
Damn, son.
aspire to have the same like
Yeah, do we still have room to level up like this?
I hope so, man.
Yeah.
Can.
I hope so, man.
Can.
No lah, Chinese uncles usually just end up at the kopitiam eating kwachi lah.
Man.
We don't mature as good as that, man.
Fahmi can't laugh like that.
That's racist. You can't say that. So yeah. So we used to do this, and then
It's insane.
and we felt that was part of, you know, like you say, we didn't think of it as vice. We thought of it more of as you know, this is our so-called middle finger to the institution, right?
It does feel that way.
Yeah.
It did feel that way actually.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
It was kind of like, okay, so you want to shut us up, so we're gonna find some way to broadcast all
What
of
we
it. It
wanna
was like
say.
pirate radio, you know. It's like we just want all these stories, all these people who at that time had no Facebook Live, had no TikTok, had no nothing. You know,
Yeah, man.
it's something which we find hard to imagine that there was a time when there was nothing.
Even YouTube was really difficult.
It was not there yet at that time in 2000 and 11 years ago. So it must
no,
have been
YouTube was there. It's just really difficult.
really difficult. Yeah,
Really difficult. Like, I don't think the YouTube we see on the desktop was the same as the YouTube you see on your phone. Some videos can't even be watched on your phone at that time.
Yeah.
And I don't think YouTube even had an app at the time.
No, I don't think so.
Right?
Oh, yeah, there was a period of time that they didn't have an app.
Yeah.
And it was kind of shady too, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Browser only, and then
Yeah.
it was dark times if you think about it. Which I think in 10 years we probably say the same, but now.
we could be in the metaverse discussing this.
Yeah,
You never know.
Andrew, he added this really interesting question within the Fairly Current Show question is, do you think Yamcha Sessions could do anything that you wanted to do but never could do, right? The question is there anything Yamcha Sessions can do that you wanted to do but never could?
I think you need a good producer who will kind of try to get you the craziest things if that is what you want.
That's all
Right.
him, man.
Yeah.
That's
So
that guy.
imagine like interviewing, I mean, when we were doing like the programming, the how it was curated.
Yeah.
I mean, it was political.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without really saying that it was,
Of
just
course.
by showing who, right? So if you know who you want to
Yep.
and why and how it adds to that conversation, that layer,
I see.
I think you could. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it was, some of the things that we did on the Fairly Current Show was like really outright wacky. There was one episode where we went to Serdang and I interviewed a cow.
Wow.
You interviewed a cow.
Yes, because at that time, if I remember correctly, someone had done something like cut off
Holy what?
cut off a cow's head and like thrown it into a temple.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I remember that. I remember
Yeah.
that they threw
And
into an
then-
Indian temple.
That is absolute savagery.
Yeah. I remember that.
At that time, and there were people who were trying to provoke, some kind of unrest.
This was 2008 or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
It was when I was Form 5, and I was like, wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty
That-
hardcore, man,
that's-
guys.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's intense.
so what we did was we wanted to respond to what was going on at that time.
Right.
So hence the interviewing with the cow was very...
Yeah, so it
that's
was
satire
just
lah, in a way.
and I had one interview where I interviewed a phantom voter,
Oh, a phantom. Oh, because of the whole...
the whole phantom voter thing.
So
that's
that's smart.
satire.
Yeah, so
quite humorous.
so that was where we realized, like, hey, actually, we don't have to be too serious about
Yeah.
who we were going to interview, but whether people could catch on, with what we were. So it was essentially me interviewing empty air.
I love that.
Right.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love
So-
that. That is what we should be doing for April Fools, but in a way, there is a message behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is strong.
very
Yeah.
creative.
So
I respect that.
largely it was because people like Hardesh, Mark, Tay,
Had brilliant minds to think of this as well, right? I'm pretty sure it was the brainstorming sessions you guys had.
because Hardesh is a musician and he used to score films.
Wow.
So the way he thought about things was, it was a different way that he was approaching
sure.
these kind of
There are people
creative-
who have that eye,
Yeah,
Oh,
That's right.
different intelligences.
Yeah.
So it
sure.
comes back to education. So
It does, man.
Yeah.
Okay, we should really carry on. I feel like the conversations we have are amazing. I'm just gonna say it, but like we gotta keep to we have so many
Go
questions.
ahead.
Okay. Wait, hold on. Okay, so I know you did chemical engineering and then you went into performing arts. How did you make that transition to performing arts? Although you were doing chemical engineering, you were just doing it on the side.
I think people think that it's mutually exclusive. Not necessarily. You can be an artist and an engineer at the same time. There are artist engineers.
My mom didn't think so. I wanted to do performing arts.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't personally have spent so much money on myself going to the States to study, theatre.
Really?
I wouldn't have at that time. But I personally, like with engineering, there's a lot of, math involved.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I felt that, out of all of the engineering disciplines, electrical, mechanical,
Chemical,
aeronautical,
yeah.
civil, right? I felt that chemical was the one that I had least problems with. If civil, then you have to, be out in the sun.
Yeah.
If it's electrical, it's just looking at wires. If it's aeronautical, it's about planes and not something that I'm really thrilled about. So I felt, hey, maybe this thing is something quite all right.
There is a close friend of mine. His name is Lashwin. I know he's watching this. He's a chemical engineer as well. I think he's going to psychology soon. But correct me if I'm wrong, right? So for the listeners, chemical engineering is actually the study of processes, right? Rather than legit engineering. It's part of it, but it's more of the process in which you can be more efficient with.
Not necessarily. I always simplify this as a chemist makes one Panadol pill. A chemical engineer scales that up to 1 million pills.
Oh, fascinating.
Oh, so it's understanding the process in which you can make mass or save, resources.
Efficiency.
So there's, we have to know chemistry, but it's a lot more about, pipes, fluid mechanics. It's about thermodynamics.
Reaction with materials.
Yeah.
I see.
And so it's not straight up chemistry. So I always enjoyed a challenge, like a puzzle. So I always looked at it like, okay, how do we solve this problem?
Right.
So engineers, I feel in general, are problem solvers.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I enjoyed performing. So over summer break, I usually come back and perform with my friends. People like Mark Tay and Fahmi Reza.
I see.
Yeah,
I thought you would do it in the US as well. I'm like,
No, it was far more efficient to fly me back than to fly everybody else to the US.
because you're a group, right? You're a group.
Yeah. Because it was a collective. So, and what was nice about, I think, the performing arts scene at that time, they were very welcoming of a lot of young people who were striking it out on their own, trying to find their own footing, their own place. And back in the day, back in like 2000, 2001, we used to have this annual arts awards called the Bo Cameronian Arts Awards.
Like Boti?
Boti.
Oh, shit.
So
They were the
used
sponsor,
to,
right?
they were the sponsor, and they used to
water.
host this. Thank you. They used to host this arts awards at the Mandarin Oriental
Oh, downtown.
downtown, and it was the thing that all artists,
Aspired to.
look forward to. Some
see.
kind of, okay, we were acknowledged, we were having fun.
That was your
Right.
big...
Yeah, and I remember, there was a year when I won the Most Promising Artist award.
Wow.
And that
Look at you now.
Yeah, I know.
Politicians.
I'm still doing performances except in Parliament. So I'm doing performances in Parliament.
No. You did it in Tokyo as well, 2019.
Yes,
Cannot discount
that's right.
that.
That's right.
Cannot discount that.
Yeah. And what was interesting about I think that whole time was just like how Pop TV 8 years later from 2000. I felt that the performing arts scene is very, in terms of talent, very rich, very open, competitive, but not insular, not so insular. It's a small community because you can't really make money as artists.
Yep.
It's always the case.
As arts practitioners, you can't really make money as musicians except if you're huge.
Yeah.
Right. And
You die lah. I mean, technically.
That helps only after you're famous.
Yeah. No. I know a lot of artists who die and then their art appreciates instantly.
Yeah, a lot of those black rappers, the moment they die, whoo,
Yeah, like Amy Winehouse. Like whoever listened to Amy Winehouse? Let's be real.
Yeah.
Only when she passed away, like, whoa, God.
Yeah. Oh, sayangnya. You know, this kind of.
It's always that sentiment, you know, because they're no longer there, so they can't
Right,
create new.
Yeah, it's almost like you never appreciate someone or something until they're gone.
Yeah.
That's human nature. Oh man.
Sadness.
Jiwang.
sedih lah, bro.
But so you were always into politics. It's just that when you did it, it was for a challenge, and then for performing arts, it's more of like what you enjoy.
Yeah. So, so if we were to put it simply, I am, you know, engineering was, I wouldn't say a mental challenge, but it was a challenge to
It was a
myself to prove to myself that, you know, I can do whatever I set my mind to. At
Not
the same-
easy though. You know,
No.
Like,
Oh, by no means.
To
dude.
get
yeah.
from Taylor's to get to Purdue, my CGPA needed to be 3.8.
what the
Wow, you
Yeah.
actually have to study, man.
Yeah.
No man, yeah, I just want to point out, right?
Yeah.
ADP, right, is one of the toughest graders I've ever had to go through.
Honestly.
Like
Yeah.
even in the US, my GPA was like a 3.85.
Yeah, I know. My what in the US?
Yeah, in the US, 3.85.
Really?
Yeah, in
What-
Malaysia,
what school did you go to?
2.85. I went to a shit school. I went to
okay.
University of San Francisco. Nowhere near Purdue. But I always thought,
Okay, lah, I
right,
love San Francisco.
but the grading was so tough.
Yeah.
It was so tough.
It was tough.
I think I only got like 2 A's in the whole of time. when
Well,
was
I
in
mean,
ADP.
it's everything was marked against the bell curve, and then you had Mara scholars, which I stood no chance against. They were all getting hundreds. The best I can do is like be on par. So yeah, that was tough.
It was tough. It was really, really.
I saw engineering as this kind of mental challenge, but I had always been, because of Reformasi, been political. So we did a Myers-Briggs personality type test.
Oh, are you
in the US?
You're an
I'm an ENFP.
Oh, dude, I think you're the same.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah.
Extroverted, intuitive, feeling, and perceptive. So I make the worst chemical engineers.
Because you're emotional.
because when we did this test, right, so there's 16 according to this Myers-Briggs, right?
16 personalities.
16 personality types. So I am the kind of engineer who, when given a task, so they're engineers who, when given a task, they would ask, okay, how can I make this bomb explode better, explode more, right? Kill more people, or have more, how can we make this more efficient? I'm the kind of engineer who'll go like, why are we making a bomb?
Oh, okay.
Which is actually quite helpful.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I think we need that question, right?
Not for the businesses. So
Because businesses just want you to do it, ma. They don't want you to think, right? You are part of a huge machine.
yeah.
Right.
So they don't want you to question it.
Yeah. And for someone who was in advertising, you totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's because the creative heads will always decide,
But
right?
very helpful from a business perspective, I think.
Yeah. But
If you were running, let's say, a startup, right, questioning your fundamentals, taking a step back and looking at the overarching big picture instead of just doing for the sake of doing.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
helpful.
for sure.
Perhaps not in the context of chemical engineering.
Yeah. Yes.
Not for big businesses, lah.
Yeah.
I don't think so. You're always the wild thinker, and then
Yeah. So that was why, like, to me, like, these big questions, you know, I think about them all the time. But I had always felt an attachment to. The main reason I got into politics was in 2010. I was doing an arts residency in two places, in Lisbon and in Tokyo. So arts residencies they are like the, how do you say,
like a few months there type of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
one,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like a
so,
boot camp, right?
So no, it's like
It's like
someone,
you inspire each other.
an organization hosts you for a period of time where you don't have to, you know, either you are not meant to produce anything, or you're just there to like soak in
I see.
and let the creative juices kind of, you know.
And then there are other artists there, and then they kind of feed off each other.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
at this one residency, my collaborator, who is he's a choreographer, so he was, we were asking each other these questions. At what point will you stop making art? So for him, it was when he wanted to have a family.
That's,
Because-
I think most people.
Yeah, in Europe, you can't make art and have a family because it's just not feasible.
Yeah.
It's just not economically feasible. For me, it was, I would stop making art when I felt my audience was leaving me.
Wow.
So that was that point in my life when I felt, you know, yes, we went through 2008. This is 2010. So that feeling that you said, we're feeling now after Sheraton move, 2 years later, 4 years after 2018, I felt that in 2010, right? This feeling of all of the Perak coup happened, a whole bunch of things happened. Like, oh wow, we lost, like PKR lost, I think we lost 5 MPs, 6 MPs who defected at that time.
Yep.
So there was this whole feeling of, oh no, what's happening, what's going on, right? Yep. And then I felt, oh, all of this that was going on was making my friends want to leave Malaysia. I make my art to perform for my friends. The stories that I want to perform are stories for us, people like,
who live here, are from here.
And my friends were leaving.
Yep.
So at this residency, I said, I will stop making art to save my audience. To save my audience, I have to save Malaysia.
Wow. That is incredible. This is incredible, man.
But now, how do we save Malaysia?
Slowly lah. I mean, but like that's insane, man.
Yeah.
But have your friends left the country?
Some did.
Some have for good. But I remember, just like how many of us felt on this day 4 years ago, on the 9th of May, 2018, many of them reached out to me and said, wow, what's going on? Like, wow,
They felt like maybe we missed out the train.
No. I think then it kind of reopened their eyes.
That it is possible.
That it was possible. And I feel that one thing which Hisham Rais, who would be interesting to have on the show, said was bersih. The thing about bersih is that we crossed a line where Malaysians could not be made scared or made fearful of authority again, right? Because of bersih, they can say no.
Yep.
No yellow t-shirt, no coming out, but we still went out, right? So in Malay, he said it as melepasi garis takut. and it was
apt. Very apt.
So once you have lepas garis takut, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. You can't close,
because they know the limit. The limit is no longer that line.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's really one of those things that I feel we have crossed.
Definitely.
So 2018, I feel now, when you look at it in some context of that cycle that progresses, like I said, so 2008, 2008 we won,
more seats.
2018, 2013 we didn't, we increased some more, and then 2018 we won for the first time.
Yep.
So now we have some setbacks. Who's to say that in
statistically 2 more years, I mean, if you look at the number.
Yeah, and then you could say in the next 2 years or the next 7 years, which is why I feel people like Nurul Izzah and Rafizi said what they said about 5 years or 10 years, right? And it is, I wouldn't say, how do you say, historical inevitability. I don't think so. But there are some trends. Once you cross a certain threshold, you can't go back. Once you have acclimatized to certain ideas about,
you can't retract those.
Yeah,
It's
you
out
can't
there.
you can't go back to Pop TV.
Yeah.
Now we've got to move on with Yamcha sessions.
Correct.
So likewise, you can't. When you talk to when I talk to civil servants, my parents, my mom's friends who are all ex PTD, ex pegawai tadbir dan diplomatic, senior civil servants, they've all seen how during Pakatan Harapan's time corruption was really low, and civil servants were adjusting to a new normal at that time. Cleaner government, less political interference, so to speak. And it's hard for them now to go back to how it was before.
Because you can't abide by that whole authority that you can't speak out and all that anymore. Because now you know what it's like. You know how it tastes.
Yeah. Yep. Once you had that feeling of that sunshine. Yeah,
that's true.
Go back. Like you long for it, and in quiet, how do you say, subversive ways, you long for it so much that you make it happen. You make it return. Because. I'm a hopeless romantic when it comes to nation building. I still believe in Project Malaysia. I still believe that, This is, ours is a very special nation, right? And I just came back from Sabah, right? And you can see, it's like, wow, we have been so blinkered in how we were taught about growing up. Only when you discover other parts of Malaysia, whether it's Kelantan, or whether it's Sarawak, whether it's Sabah, or other areas, right? And that's then you begin to appreciate and recognize just how truly blessed we are. I was in the Crocker Range from Kota Kinabalu going to Keningau through Kimanis, Papar, right? And when we crossed the peak of this hill and we went down into Keningau, the valley, it was so beautiful and lush and expanse. It was quite a wonderful
Hey, pull up
expanse.
Keningau. See Keningau.
Bro, the only state in Sabah I remember is Menggatal, bro. For obvious reasons, of course.
I've only been to KK once.
But Keningau, right? So, of course, on Google you'll see
All the urban.
urban expanse, right? But it goes to me
It's vast, man.
when you just look at just that expanse, when you just see and you realize, and it could be any other state, because for those of us who live in Klang Valley,
We are just...
we're to some extent stuck here, right?
Yeah, we got like those goggles on,
Yeah.
We only see what we see.
Yeah.
But we never really go out of our comfort zone to... Wow,
Yeah.
look at that, man. That's insane.
yeah.
man.
So
This is
it was
nice.
like all of this mist.
Looks like SF.
Wow.
It's like they have that fog thing.
Yeah.
In
Carl the Fog.
Yes, Carl the Fog. That's right. But it's beautiful, and
Yeah, it really is.
I think it's just...
you should go. Yeah, Yamcha sessions in Keningau or Menggatal, depending.
I'd like to thank the government for the sponsorship.
Syed said that he would only do a second podcast with us if we went to Muar. I've been to Muar. I actually went to Muar right after that.
Right.
Simply because he told me you should go to Muar.
You should go to Lembah Pantai right next door.
Right
near
there.
lah, okay.
Do you know?
We always go lah.
Do you know Mid Valley is part of Lembah Pantai?
Yes,
I
Bangsa
discussed,
mah.
Yeah.
Bangsa,
Yeah.
Mid Valley. So, and Bukit Aman.
Right,
And
right,
That's
right,
part of Lembah
Can we
Pantai.
complain about the roads to you?
No, you can't.
Shit.
Who is the person in charge of the road?
DBKL.
You see, I always feel, right, like, how come DBKL is in charge? But then, right,
See, okay. Now going back to education and
About
we're talking
who is
about
in charge of what?
taxes.
Yeah.
We're talking about taxes. The other thing is how to make a complaint. Like who's in charge of what? Actually,
Right.
right. Who's in charge of what?
Yes.
So we have. So you've got MPs. You've got aduns. You've
Yeah.
got ahli majlis.
Yep.
And then you've got officers,
Yeah.
right? So, in every state, except for wilayah persekutuan, federal territories,
Hannah did mention this.
yeah. So you've got this structure. So a lot of people don't know. So a lot of people come to me and complain
About the roads.
and ask about roads. I've had aunties in Bangsa complain to me about their neighbors' leaves falling into their house.
Wow, is that a real problem?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
that- that's
It is a problem for them, right? So I don't deny their right to complain to me, but I will say, okay, auntie, technically it's the wind. No. I don't say that.
You should.
No.
Slap some awakening to them. Like
That's why you can't be an ahli parliament.
soon. I cannot. I'll be like,
I recall there is a WhatsApp number. There is a WhatsApp number for DBKL.
Yeah.
And I've sent like...
But whether it works,
I don't know whether it works.
Yeah,
I don't know this WhatsApp number.
There's a WhatsApp number that
Right.
for
if he don't know,
complaints.
means it's fake, bro.
No, it's a WhatsApp number for complaints. I checked it online, right?
Okay,
So if you have any complaints, refer to the WhatsApp this number. I'm like, okay lah. You put the WhatsApp logo there. You
Right.
say the call to action WhatsApp. The double parkers,
Right.
the roads. The only thing you see, okay, I'm gonna call her out lah, right? But how come the roads are repaired just before election?
Oh yeah.
You see, right? People always tell me it's DBKL's job. I'm like, oh, I respect that. But how come it's repaired just before? That means there is pull.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
surely there is pull.
Because
Surely there's pull. I mean, come on.
how do you say like a lot of what I've been talking about, and I think people like Hannah or Syed Sadiq, the things that we talk about seem conceptual or abstracted. For a lot of people, at the end of the day, the idea of government is reduced to: are my streets clean? Are the drains clogged?
Yeah.
Are the streets light working? Right? Because it is a manifestation a late stage manifestation of the idea of government.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, it's much more than that. But for a lot of people, the lived experience of government is what you see right in front of you.
The physical.
Yeah. It's like potholes and flash floods and like rubbish, this kind of thing. So I don't fault people, but it's at the end of the day, it's about civic education, which we have too little of.
Yep.
And
Clearly.
I went to a convenience store the other day, and this young man recognized me despite my mask and my.
Out of curiosity, why he called you? He like bro or what?
Awak ni
Orang dalam kan?
awak ni ahli parlimen kan?
What's
Yeah.
Okay.
So I said, okay, yeah. Saya Fahmi Fadzil kan? Ya betul, bukan Fahmi Fadzil.
Alright. Okay.
No, Fahmi Fadzil kan? Ya. Awak belajar apa? Oh, saya belajar sains politik. That's why.
Okay.
So he's 20 years old, science politics student,
I see.
part-timing at a convenience store. And said, awak dah daftar mengundi belum? Oh, saya belum daftar lagi. And this is recent. This is after undi 18.
Yes.
And automatic voter registration. So if a political science student
It's not
20 years
even-
old doesn't know, and then his friends were like, okay, umur berapa? Oh, saya 19 tahun, saya 20 tahun. Kami belum daftar, belum layak lagi untuk mendaftar.
Wow, they
So,
don't even know.
A lot of people don't know.
Right.
So it's just like a lot of people don't know how to file taxes. A lot of people don't know their
Structure
rights.
of government as well.
Yeah,
Actually, I think it's a lot as well, Like,
Yeah.
I every time, like, okay, I'm not gonna lie, right? I'll spill the beans. I'm not shy, man. When Sight came on, I was paranoid, man. I was like, oh my god, we're gonna talk about government, politics, I need to research, man. I just need to like read, and then like, oh my lord, this is so overwhelming. Hannah comes on, I'm like, oh, you again have to like do so much research. And when you're coming, I'm like, wow, dude, I just came out of like a 2-day work till 3 a.m. type of thing, and I'm like, wow, I need to do a lot of research, man. So I just like listen to podcasts with you and them, and then I was like looking, and it's a lot of information, man. And the structural breakdown of what makes a constituency, what makes like I don't know a district, who is in charge of who.
Right.
Imagine teaching this to like I don't know a 12-year-old kid. I'm 30, man, and I'm just like this is overwhelming even for me. If a 12-year-old kid had to learn science and he like barely get like a B or whatever, and you teach him about like the structure of government as well. It's a lot, man.
I think we actually we're at a stage where it's no longer Web 1.0, it's Web 2.0, going to Web 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow, you
And-
say that all the stonks all
Yeah.
coins all.
Please save my crypto. Please save me. I need help.
Okay, going to Web 3.0.
And at the same time, people, I think you never feel that it's important until something chases after you.
Yeah, I feel
Right.
that. I feel the same. Everybody
So-
is only when you're
Right.
affected.
The thing is, it's how
It's like the flood, lah. When the flood happened, then only can point finger.
Right.
Bro, talking about the flood, right? I just got to ask a really important question. See, KLCC and Bukit Bintang are like a really important place, right? For
Yeah,
Malaysians
it's the only Kinokuniya in
and
the whole of
even
Malaysia.
like
Yeah, yeah.
foreigners, like literally everything goes there.
Okay.
Why are floods happening there? So,
City
Right.
planning. I think.
so
bad city planning. So why we have smart tunnel there? But because the latest flood, KLCC was being flooded, and I was there, bro.
Yeah.
So
Is it?
I was stuck,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm like KLCC, the pinnacle of Malaysia and stuff,
That's true. Actually, he's got a point. That's quite an iconic place.
yeah.
And
My friend's coming from Singapore, and the only place I can think of, bring KLCC,
yeah,
bro.
and right
Oh,
there
Petaling Street lah, I guess.
swimming pool right there, and I was not using a Hilux or maybe I'm using a Honda, so I cannot go through the Banjai, So I'm just venting the frustration lah. But as a politician, right, shouldn't this be a place where we safeguard to ensure that it's always looked good
Looked
upon?
after.
Yeah. So I think it's not just these kind of iconic places. I think people's homes.
Yeah, man.
Recently,
Yeah,
there was this flash flood that happened a couple of weeks back in a part of Bangsa that had never seen flash floods
You see it?
before.
Which part of
it's
Bangsa?
called the Bangsa Park area, Lorong Makruf.
Oh no, property
okay,
price.
okay.
Yeah,
So it
this-
has invaded Bangsa.
yeah,
Property price.
Yeah,
Yeah, bro.
it happened because a lot of it comes down to maintenance. A lot of it comes down to maintenance, poor maintenance of drains. So one of the big problems we have is, and I discovered this when I spoke to some DBKL people who told me, it's been a long time since we actually went to the ground to, poke holes into the drains to see what the situation is.
I see.
And those their jobs.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, DBKL has many different departments. So
Okay.
there's one department specifically that looks after drains. But it's getting everybody to come and see we have a problem. So all of them came to see, this problem. So then they realized, it's a huge problem. I remember when the flood of in March.
That was the first flood that hit us.
No,
that was
that's
second
December.
one.
That's the second one. The second one in
okay.
March.
That one was the day Hannah you came to on the podcast. That day was the day.
Gosh.
The Kuchai Lama flood, is it?
That was the Kinara
It was
one.
the whole.
It was a Kuchai Lama
Kuchai one.
flooded.
Yeah.
Lembah Pantai flooded. Kampung Pasir next to
Oh
the
yes,
NT
yes.
toll.
I was at Parkland. My girlfriend saw outside. It was the Kesas Highway was flooded like
Yeah.
mad.
Yeah, and then,
Teh tarik.
and then what they discovered was there's one area in Pudu where some people had dumped cement and the cement had hardened, of course.
My
Jesus.
God.
Blocked.
Who's these people?
we don't know
which
lah.
construction? Like what the hell, bro?
It's like it's the same thing when they have to do the Air Shabas stoppage because someone had poured something into the sungai.
Yeah, it's contaminated
Yeah.
and then the water was cut off. That
It's a lot of people who are looking for a quick solution to I have to dump the cement. Where do I dump it? The drain lah.
We don't do that.
Yeah, I know exactly.
But
So
it's Malaysia. So
And that's why we had the
people
blockage. So, oh my god.
yeah, so actually a really good way to solve this systematically is a lot of our drains are quite old. Yeah, so like parts of Bangsa were built in the 80s. There are parts of Federal Hill that were built in the 60s. So after a certain time, DBKL should just routinely change.
should be a schedule
Right.
of sorts.
Which I don't know whether they do or they don't have right now because I'm not part of government.
Yeah.
So I can only ask nicely, hey, can you?
Macam mana, bro? Because I'm not sure if you guys have friends in the floods, but there are friends, people who get
A lot lah.
a lot,
Puchong also a lot.
Yeah, Puchong.
And in their God mind, I'm sure they didn't buy the flood insurance.
No one.
No one, right? Which I think they should, but who would have?
At this
thought?
point, everybody should have.
Yeah.
insurance, lah.
And then
I
even
agree.
after the first flood, there were people like, what's the chances of a second flood? Boom! Right?
Yeah.
And it's affecting a lot of people, and I just feel like the current government, they are not doing enough. Like even after there's a flood, it's still not being adjusted. Because I asked my friend who is just outside of Tanyulai. Once you go up the hill and down,
Gone.
that was the place where there was a flood.
It's the swimming pool, bro.
Yeah. There was another thing. So I asked him, did you see anything, like any DBKL doing anything? He saw none. There was no people coming in,
Right.
cleaning the drain because there was like a sungai, right there. Nothing is going on.
That's actually part of the. That's not Lembah Pantai anymore. That used to be Tanyulai, but they moved it out before 2018.
Damn chill,
How
we can just move
convenient.
stuff, is it?
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
So
how
convenient.
convenient.
Yeah, I know. But that's part of the flood discharge that goes to behind near PPR Muhibah, Sungai Krayong, something like
Oh, yeah, bro. Yeah, that's a sungai. Sungai K something.
that. Krayong.
Sungai
K something. I always think there's crocodile there for some reasons.
Yeah.
God,
I think there might be a biawak.
Oh, that one's chill, lah, bro.
yeah,
Pretty
itu
sure.
okay.
But see, my concern is like things are going on, but I don't see the government doing anything. You know,
I think
these are
that's-
simple things.
I think it's because when people, like what you mentioned, you see the physical things that don't work, right? So the association is automatically with the government, because technically, it is public. It's a public
Yeah.
thing. It's like a
Yeah,
lamp, right? So the association is simple because it's not owned by me. I pay tax. I pay my road tax. I'm a citizen of Malaysia, and I pay everything I need to pay. And yet, how come it doesn't work? So when they go overseas, like I go to Singapore or I go to Japan, and I see, wow, everything seems to function really well. How come these people can live their life? It's government owned, and they can live like it's normal. Like the drains are super clean, they have fish and all that jazz lah, right? But in Malaysia, it's different. I gotta say, KL has changed a lot, lah. Okay, and I will, when I see effort, I will say it's got effort. And when you go to downtown, it's damn clean. Serious, like right now.
Is it at PG area?
No, downtown, like Pavilion.
Okay.
It's really clean. Compared to last time, it is really clean. However, I think it's a slow progress thing. I think when you go outskirts, like where we live, like Oakland Road, you know, that's when you really see.
Yeah,
It's too slow though.
yeah, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to use the restroom real quick.
If it takes 30 years, equivalent to my age, to clean Pavilion, it's going to take 100 years to make a small change in Malaysia, right?
Yeah. I think when it comes to a lot of these public utilities, actually the government, I agree. I think they often forget that we are ratepayers. The term is ratepayers. We pay like quit rent, you know, so we're ratepayers. So there's a sense of there should be a sense of responsibility to people who pay in order for them to get their gaji.
Yeah,
right?
True, bro.
So unfortunately, I think for a lot of KL people, you know, there's 1.8 million of us. We have not really made that connection between there can be no taxation without representation. So it is that whole thing that led to, you know, like the American Civil War.
Right.
Oh, sorry. The American War of Independence, right? There can be no taxation without representation, and then the Boston Tea Party, etc. But for us, I think we could step up. I think something needs to change. A lot of us in a lot of KL MPs actually are beginning to ask, you know, Lembah Pantai is a huge constituency. Pantai Toraza is a huge constituency.
Yep.
I look after, you know, easily about 200,000 people.
Oh, massive.
But the voters maybe about 112,000, more or less. But it's just me.
Yeah,
in
true.
other places, you've got aduns, right? So at least the work is shared.
Yes.
The work is spread out. And then you've got Ahli Majlis. There used to be a time when we used to have that. And then 1969 happened, and then the government decided to usurp that and end, take over part of KL, whereas KL used to be part of Selangor. And then, that's a history lah.
Right.
So I think if we want to have better management, we need to have a more transparent local government. We need to, for me and a lot of MPs in KL, we want to see more. We want to have the third vote, or rather in KL it'll be like second vote lah. So we want to be able to decide on who becomes the mayor.
Yes, that's right.
So this kind of thing.
Tough, man, because I'm a bit upset. Last week I drove through a pothole. I had to change tire because the tire bungka after that.
Oh man,
I'm mad, bro.
That's rough.
Yes.
That's why I cycle to work now.
Yeah, bro.
But
What's
I
up,
only live
man?
like 5 minutes away from my work.
But see, I know we are flying left and right with the questions, right? Okay, but I'm just gonna ask, right? Okay, as a politician, right? So this is related to houses, because I sell houses Saturday Sunday. So you want to buy a house, you can find me. By the way,
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pogi.
Okay, anyways, okay.
All right.
So I understand there are people, like government are coming out with certain houses scheme like Rumah Weep, I think. Those are government bond projects, right? Which of course it should be catered to those who can afford it, such as not so T1, T20 payers, right?
Yep.
Yeah, see. But is there like anything to stop people, like such as investors, to buy that buildings and then do investment? Because if this is built for those
you mean
middle
like-
incomers,
You mean like REITs? Kind of, not really.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm going somewhere.
It's more affordable housing.
Yeah,
right?
it's
I
like
think.
affordable housing, but there are people.
I think I kicked something.
Oh, it's back.
sound.
It's back, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
It's back. It's back.
Did
It's
I
just some
kick something down
wiring.
here?
It's just a wire knee.
Somewhere. Okay, it's okay now.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's like affordable houses are built for people who can't really afford really big house, right? So it's for affordable. But there are times where really rich people buy their house so that they can do rental and get more money.
Yeah.
And then when they rent it, it's more price than what the actual price is. And then of course it hurts the middle incomers and the low incomers buyers. Do the government have any plannings to protect this?
Yeah, I mean, if I were government, I would, put something in place. Our biggest problem for Klang Valley, particularly KL, is the price of land. I know for a fact how in some parts of Lembah Pantai, for example, there were people who they had to pay something like 2.5 times more than the original land price because people were flipping land. And this is like, we're talking, like tens of millions, right? So the base cost for that piece of property will increase so many more times compared to if they bought it at that original price. Yeah.
But Lembah Pantai is good.
Yeah.
Pantai good.
Some pretty good. Some pretty good places, So I think they are putting some curbs. For example, if you wanted to buy residency wilayah, this kind of thing, right? That you need to show, and I think like LHDN does a check on you. They check whether you've bought a house before. Stuff like that.
And you have to live there for like X number of years. I remember
10
You
years
can't
before
sell it for 10
selling.
years. Yeah. But we were very lucky in Lembah Pantai. We had one this kind of residency that I think in other places it may sell for about 300,000, but we managed to find a way to get it sold. I think 60% of the property was sold to people in Lembah Pantai, and they managed to buy it for about, after rebates and everything, 245.
Bro, that's
245.
correct, bro.
But even then, that's still too expensive for a lot of people.
I understand. I'm not
No,
saying
I
anything
think
about
actually I want to go to the next point.
Sure.
Because of inflation and job opportunities, which leads appropriately actually.
that. Yeah.
If you think about it, right, in the past, and we've had many conversations about this as well, how people of, can I say baby boomers? I think baby boomers more likely. Baby boomers had the opportunity to just work a singular job, send 3 kids overseas, own a car and a house and everything, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at the current state, it's a very challenging time,
Yeah.
especially like post pandemic.
Yeah.
So it's not only bad that you had to work like 3 gigs on the side, and like all of us here have main gigs. This is just kind of like we do it as a hobby and we love to talk to people, right? If you look at it in the past, they could do. I bet you could even work at a restaurant, minimum wage.
And you're done.
You're done, right? You could be a teacher and still have a family of 4.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I don't think people can even have kids. It's so difficult, right?
Yeah.
With job opportunities and inflation. And owning a house is not even within the majority of people's radar. Like, it can't even be conceived.
But right now, boleh makan ke? I think that's the concern.
Yeah, I think now it's just like, when's my next meal?
Yeah.
Or like, can
it's that
my
bad.
salary survive this month?
Yeah.
It's such a big difference, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on even pre-pandemic and post-pandemic in regards to the current economy and
Our economy prices in corruption.
Yeah, that's very important.
You gotta cut that out.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'll repeat that. Okay.
Sorry.
Our economy prices in corruption, and this is the biggest. How do you say? The biggest bugbear, the biggest insipid and destructive thing for our economy and our future. If you have to, how do you say? If everything costs more to produce because you need to pay off people to get licenses, to get approvals, to get it past such and such a gateway, or to get
red tape?
red tape, right? Then that adds to inflation indirectly.
Oh yeah, because of people, right?
It's very
More
true.
people.
Yeah, which is so sad, because
And-
Malaysia is so rich of everything, bro.
Yeah.
We have so much resources.
And to think, I mean, not to say that, maybe corruption has always been there, but maybe not as rampant
Pervasive
as
as now.
open. Our hope in 2018 was that there would be, with the stopping of 1MDB, GST, etc., that there would be less corruption. In fact, I remember when Pakatan Harapan was in power, I met an UMNO warlord who also happens to be a businessman.
Warlord.
Bro,
warlord.
the term warlord in my mind a bit scary, bro. It
Yeah,
feels
yeah.
like he killed someone and stuff.
yeah.
How do you define a warlord?
Yeah.
It's like
What's
a
a
big
war-
man.
a
A
big
big
man?
man. A
Is he
political
like
big man.
kingpin or penguin level?
He's like owns a lot of businesses,
I
probably
see.
his net worth is hundreds of millions of ringgit.
Shee.
Yeah. You are not. We are nowhere near.
We are just
Right. But this warlord, like I bumped into him in a a coffee shop in Taman Tun, and then he was like, "Hey, Fahmi, how are you?" I said, "Hey, hi."
Hi, Mr. Warlord.
So, hi, Datuk Sri Warlord. You know, that seri-seri, berseri-seri. So he was like, I sat down and had coffee with this guy, and then he was like, I have to say, as a businessman, things are much better under Pakatan Harapan. I said, what? Are you telling me you, an UMNO warlord, telling me that doing business under Pakatan Harapan is much better for you?
I need to get that guy on the podcast. So I need to ask.
Pakatan Harapan is he paying off?
No,
Hey.
the thing is, and Anthony Lok said this several times, right? And Mahathir, for all of his, warts and all, right? He stressed that ministers cannot play shares, for example. Ministers. So
Which makes so much sense, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I remember Anthony Lok saying this, like Mahathir would multiple times in various meetings say no, you cannot own shares, you cannot buy shares, because then there'll be insider trading because what they're going to announce like tomorrow. So
that makes sense.
It means minister now can buy shares.
What? Are you
Amazing.
serious?
Oh, well, it doesn't have to be directly, right? And I'm not casting aspersion to anybody, but the point is that at that time, the culture,
Stonks.
the climate was no corruption, less corruption. So in order for us to have this change, all of that adds so much bulk and so much wastage to the cost of doing business, the cost of living. Literally, the cost of living is affected directly and indirectly by corruption. And, when you look at the PAC reports, the Public Accounts Committee reports, right? Like, things used to, the kind of reports that we saw, when it's tabled in Parliament, like a screwdriver costing several hundred ringgit.
Yeah, man.
It's ridiculous. That was how they were paying people off, right? So that was how they were circulating the money. And, for maybe for some people, they felt that during Pakatan's time, the gravy train stopped for them because they were so used to that kind of economy. Whereas what we were trying to do was save some money. And, if you really think about it, at that time, Saifuddin Nasution was the minister in charge of domestic trade and consumer affairs. CPI between 2018 to 2020 almost barely inched up. It was quite a level stable, quite stable. I remember this until at the very least December of 2019. So at least for a good 2 years,
Right.
The price of goods never went up.
Or at least even if it did a bit lah.
A bit, but only towards the end.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of controls in place. So at that time, you could buy chicken for $5.99 a kilo. Now it's like $8.90, $9, $10, $11, $12.
Yeah.
So while I don't know whether we can go back to that because now, there are other things at play. So the problems with Russia and Ukraine, and we buy 80-90% of our fertilizers and pesticides from both countries. So that's going to affect a lot of the paddy planters, right? And that's going to have some crunch later. So what we're going through now, both in terms of corruption as well as...
it's a double whammy, I think. That's why.
Yeah, totally.
Multiple factors.
So when people are coming out of the pandemic, they hope that things will get better, but not immediately so. And that's why I think, to kind of round off back to that question that we had, since we're recording this on the 9th of May, 4 years after the historic win for Pakatan Harapan, we have seen setbacks. We have seen this sense of despondency. The empire has struck back. Right?
This guy big Star Wars fan.
I am.
Clearly you are.
Yeah. Because the how do you say it?
It's the best Star Wars stuff.
Yeah. It was arguably the best. Yeah. and so don't despair because that is the whole point of that system. Back in the day, when we were going up against that system, it's like it wants you to be depressed. It wants you to just shut up, live your life, be quiet, just do your own thing. Occasionally, have your 1.5 children and buy a nice car, buy a nice house or two from Poige. who sells houses on the weekends, right? So do that and be happy and die. Don't make trouble for the political elites. I don't think that is going to be the case anymore, because kita dah lepas garis takut. We have gone past that. We have tasted that sunlight, the golden, that
feeling of freedom, in a way, right?
That feeling of freedom,
Yeah.
right? And so that's why I feel now where we are, if we're smart, if Pakatan Harapan is smart, if a lot of people are, we will be getting out of our doldrums as we get back to normal, as things shift and we move into an endemic phase.
Yeah.
It will take some time. Whether Pakatan Harapan will win, I hope we do, or not in the next GE, which may happen as early as September 2022.
So I've heard, yeah.
This year.
This year. It could
Oh,
happen as
baby,
early-
I cannot
so
wait
soon.
for that. It's so soon, wait.
So soon. So if you want to go to Japan, go now, or wait until Kishida says you can go.
Wait,
Without-
why?
Because today, on the 9th of May, there was news that Najib's appeal will be heard finally in August for 10 days. After that, there will be judgment.
Wait, what's this going to mean? Does that mean I can't go to Japan because
You can, but you have to wait for Kishida.
Oh,
Yeah. But for the elections,
of course I will vote.
Oh, okay.
Talking about
Bro, he's more concerned of going Japan rather than what happened in Malaysia, bro.
which
That's
is
why-
very, it's an important part of his life.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not wrong,
I
not
feel
wrong.
like
not
that-
wrong, not wrong.
No, I disagree. I think my duty to vote is actually more important, for sure.
It's important for everyone, man. Like,
It's because so I had this conversation with my dad, and he told me it is your responsibility to have a minimum of 2 kids. It is
is that a
just
Chinese thing?
No, he said.
He didn't tell me this shit.
Yeah. I was talking to because I was talking to my dad about having kids, and I was like, I don't think I am financially capable of having kids. Like, it is just not feasible. Like, I just came out of a pandemic. My salary was halved. I work for my mom. It was a family business doing events. It's really, really
Not to
difficult.
mention the cost of goods have increased.
Yeah, I used to buy a kopi peng for 2 ringgit.
Now it's
and
3?
now it's actually 2.70 to be fair. And now I go back to the same spot. It's a smaller pack for 4 ringgit.
What?
Yeah, I'm just like, wow. But I respect that. Maybe they haven't increased their prices in a long time, and people need to live, I don't know, a more quality life,
So
right?
they are living a quality life, but you are suffering.
Yeah, but I understand because it's very hard labor. So to me, I'm just like, okay, I'm willing. But then as I look at it as a whole, a lot of things, not just the copy ping increase.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, this is a real pinch, man. I'm feeling it. Because if you look at across, I'm starting to bring food from home and still want to go out.
Cost of living, housing, education, these are some of the key concerns
Yeah, so
for a lot of people.
To go back to the kids, my dad says it's still your duty to have 2 kids because if let's say if you and Jen decide to have only 1 kid, what if everybody thought the same way, and then what would Malaysia be?
China.
China no more 1-child policy lah. But still,
Hashtag throwback.
But if all of us only had 1 kid, then don't you think the population would suffer and
Yeah.
it would be worse?
Yeah.
So it's your responsibility. You should have at least.
You should consider.
Yeah. So I think.
Consider. Like I've got 2 kids.
Yeah.
So
You
you
I'm planning to have 3 lah.
okay? Good.
Three.
he's adding.
Oh man, I mean, if you got 2, I don't need anything really. Right?
Oh, you cannot lah. That doesn't
No,
work.
Doesn't work that way.
Doesn't
It's
work
because
that
it's
way.
to supplement you and your girl,
Yeah.
not
Oh,
you,
like that ah.
not dad
to
and mom and
replace
dad.
Yeah,
replace
haven't-
you and your
And
haven't thought that far.
if you really, really loved your country, right, and you really feel as if the culture is that important, you
have
shouldn't
more
let it
kids.
go.
Have more kids.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
I
have
just-
17. Let's do it.
Jesus, he's a machine.
Let's do it. We start tonight.
But I feel like that's why I place a lot of importance in voting and giving back because I feel like Malaysia has given me a lot, albeit not the best. But of course, the grass is always greener on the other side. You look at people in Australia and all that, right? But I'm sure they have things to complain about. They can't get apam balik at like 10 p.m. on the Thursday night.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, for those of us who have been abroad, those of us who have lived in other countries, I think, like
You
for me,
appreciate it, man.
yeah, for me, it's like there's no place like home. This is home, This
We
is
have really good foods, bro.
yeah, and yeah, we have terrible traffic jams, over Raya and Chinese New Year or whenever.
Actually, not as bad as Manila and Jakarta.
Yeah, not as bad.
Yeah,
as
that's
other
fact.
places. Can you imagine like people in Jakarta were stuck for like days?
Wait, you get
Wait,
stuck in the
what?
jam for days?
No, in Jakarta, Indonesia.
But
you
For
know.
days.
But in Jakarta, a normal rush hour will take you 5-6 hours to get home, man.
That's right.
Depending when you live,
Yeah.
and that's a normal day.
Yeah. So, things are
Penang.
bad, but this is home. This is the place where I will fight, right? To continue to live here. No one's gonna, no one has a right to want to make me leave, make any of you leave.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'll fight for you guys, right? And you draw a line, right? And I think for all its warts, for all of its shortcomings, that for me, having been to the New Yorks, the Londons, the Sydneys and Melbournes, the Tokyos, the Delhis, the Brussels of the world, KL, it's still
Still the
KL
shit,
for me.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
True
Chaos.
that. True that.
It's the shiznit.
Yeah, man. that was your times the shit. For sure.
100%.
Oh,
A
sure.
product of our time.
I didn't expect that, bro.
It is, man. I feel like when you go overseas as well, right, and then you have to speak to people, you have to speak clearly so that they understand what you say. Communication is key. When you come back here, you get sembang, you just say whatever you want to say. Say in the slang you want to say. And that is the true comfort I aim to live the rest of my life with.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fake my accent, just because, communicate.
Yeah.
Stay in Malaysia, man.
Totally.
I know we jumped a bit, but I was going to ask, who are some of the politicians of the past you look up to and why?
I think Mahathir for his tenacity and his ruthless Machiavellian ways.
It's right.
Anwar for his absolute sense of defiance. For someone who has been beaten and kicked down so many times.
Perseverance in the man is insane.
Yeah. And someone like to me, the people that I really look up to are people like Wan Aziza and Siti,
I feel like she's always smiling.
and
Why is she always smiling?
and to some extent Siti Hasma as well, because they are the quieter, better halves of their husbands, and you never think about it, but when Anwar went to prison the first time, Wan Aziza had to lead a national party into elections at the same time as raising 5 kids.
That is insane.
Without Anwar.
That's a savage season, man.
And they were living the life. He was the deputy prime minister, and for them to go through that, right? I have the deepest respect for Wan Aziza and Siti Hasma for being the softer side of that iron fist in that velvet glove, right?
Wow.
So much finesse.
Yeah.
That is a lot of finesse, man.
Yeah.
I got, bro. Damn.
So I think these 4 individuals, I think, really help shape a lot of what we see in Malaysia now, directly and indirectly. And to me, probably out of all the 4, probably Wan Aziza, I think, because yes, Anwar was incarcerated, but Wan Aziza is this, she is the mother who is protecting her children and protecting
The party
a future of the country. So you don't mess with that, and that. She is. Every time we have some kind of party event, I will always go and gravitate towards her. Just because I can't imagine what it was like.
Having a partner.
Yeah,
through
incarcerated, and you're left with these with kids and looking after and being a leader, opposition, being a member of parliament, and
It must be so overwhelming.
True.
yeah.
Yeah.
We rarely think about that. Same with Siti Hasma. It must have been. So
Sometimes also, I think you probably don't agree with your other half's decisions, but then you kind of need to support their decisions
Yeah.
nonetheless, right?
yeah, like my wife. My wife. I yesterday was the 8th of May was Mother's Day. So I was in Sabah, right, instead of being with my family. So sometimes I do feel I make these my family makes these sacrifices, but for me at the end of the day it's how
I know how to put it, man.
yeah
It's like
it's
Yeah.
tough.
as a person that holds so much power and responsibility in a way, you kind of need to look after the greater good.
Yeah.
Is it
So
the
you have
family? Is it the society? Susah, bro.
Bro, you have
susah.
to.
You're like Superman, you know?
Yeah.
Tough calls to make.
Yeah. I have no cape.
Yeah, man.
And I don't wear my underwear outside.
Correct. Better don't. In Malaysia, it'll be a problem for you.
Susah.
Susah.
But both of which is completely feasible. By the way.
For me, actually, we have a listener question. Now, one of our
Yeah.
viewers want to ask you a couple of questions, right?
But this is quite deep into the
Yeah.
political
This one is like
frame,
we
so
go
I
into
wouldn't know how to respond also.
Politics, bro. Okay. So clearly she did her research lah. Ong Kiang Ming taking a break and do not contest in the G15. Okay. So what does this mean to Malaysian? Word says that he's heading to Singapore. Tony Pa also want to take a break.
I like how you read it word for word, but yeah.
Macam mana?
It's a friend of mine who watches the podcast, and
Right,
he was
right.
actually he brought up the On Ken Ming taking a break thing, and that's when I googled it and I went down another rabbit hole of understanding. Wow,
Right.
Turns out he's a very approachable guy, likes to run.
Yeah.
Right.
I've known Ken Ming since before he became an MP. You know, he's a 2-term MP, and previously he was a lecturer at UCSI.
Okay.
Then he's invited Pop TV to UCSI to talk before.
No, you can get us.
Wow.
Yeah, can. Yamcha.
Yeah.
And he was a analyst, you know, so he was a data guy. So and it was very interesting for me in 2013 that he decided to run.
But for 2 terms only, right? He did say that.
Yeah, and at that time, I think he made a decision lah. Now I haven't spoken to him since his to me quite surprising statement today. I respect his decision. I understand it's not easy being an MP. It's very tough. It's tough on you. You know, I used to have black hair. Thankfully,
But
I
this
still
looks
have hair.
really good on you.
Yeah, thank
though.
you.
It's
Yeah,
just gotta say,
really
man.
rocking this look,
Thank you.
man. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I feel it's just white hair lah. I feel all will look good in white hair.
You could. I think Poige would look good.
But
selling
provided-
houses with white hair.
But provided, right, you have white hair and you still have hair.
You still have hair.
Having hair is important.
Having hair is important,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
we're not against, you know, we
On
don't
Kevin doesn't have
discriminate
hair, by the way.
against-
So,
Yes,
but
that's
he
right.
still looks good.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
Let's
not
put it out
against
there.
those who are follically challenged.
He's not. he decides to shave it. He decided to shave
I
it.
Yes.
see. Okay.
But yeah,
And-
you were
and-
saying, sorry.
Yeah. So I know people who have made decisions. I know there will be other MPs who, because either of age or other commitments, may decide not to contest in the next elections. And I mean, I reason it like this. During the campaign in 2018, I remember making a kind of like a call out at a ceramah in Bangsa, Lucky Garden. I said that, you know, this fight that we're having, you know, like to win GE 14 at that time, we are going up against, you know, our enemies, political enemies.
Yeah.
It's like Goliath, you know.
Ooh.
It's a David.
Yeah, but I'm not the David. The Rakyat is the David. You are all Davids. I'm just a stone. But together we can fell that Goliath. So likewise, if I'm just a stone and I don't think so highly of myself in that way, any stone in the right hands of David can still fell a Goliath.
Wow, this is so surreal. I
Yeah.
just listened to this on PFM.
Yeah.
Goddamn.
So you know,
It's true because they hold the power in a way, but because they kind of need to use you. You're the tool.
yeah,
here, right?
yeah. But at the same time, so I'm to some extent I'm an iconoclast. You know, I don't like so-called being an icon. Also, you know, it feels awkward, feels odd for me, and but at the same time, you do realize that certain people can make better MPs than others, right? Having said that, you have little control over who gets to become an MP. You could have a very good candidate, but the candidate could still lose.
Yeah.
Because of votes.
Yeah, you could have, you know, a really terrible candidate, but the candidate can still win, like Rina Harun. Oops. tak oops langsung. Sengaja je nak cakap. so
Wait, I just want to clear my mind. That's the lady who was
Yes.
washing.
yes, the spraying the
Bro, big fail lah, bro. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell, bro?
Yeah. Sis. She's a sis, but can also. So
Terrible. That's
so
terrible.
so yes, MPs or the candidate does. It is important, you know. It's just like saying anyone can host the Yamcha sessions. Anyone really?
Nah.
Can anyone? No, it's also chemistry, right? It's also who you are, right? So that's why it's a tricky question. I respect his decision. I don't know whether, it's better for us to have Kian Ming in as an MP or not. It's hard for me to rationalize that. Yeah.
What about for Tony Phua? Because I if I'm not mistaken, I think Tony Phua, he didn't manage to be in something. I read it somewhere.
CEC.
Yeah.
So that is the DAP's Central Executive Council. It's like their top level leadership positions in the party. So I think actually, I think Tony.
He has some like beef with Mahathir as well, right? I think Mahathir didn't mention his name specifically in his book, and then he was saying how, right?
Yeah. And I think, just like Rafizi also had beef with Mahathir,
But he's returning, right?
He's returning. So I think with Tony and Kian Ming, again, I don't know. Sometimes people will say that they won't, but then they come back.
Yeah.
So we will have to wait until we see the bridge, whether people will cross it or not. So I respect his decision. I don't know whether he will stick to that decision or not. It remains to be seen. But again, I personally feel Malaysia is better with someone like Kian Ming in the Malaysian parliament.
He looks very approachable as well.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah,
he goes
feels as if-
kayaking on the.
He speaks very well English and Malay. He speaks very well. Yeah.
Well-trained.
Honestly, right, we're talking so much about politics, right? Like for real, are we really that bad?
In what sense?
The government.
I mean, you're compared to like
It's
Bangladesh, who's bankrupt.
Are we
lah.
doing okay?
Okay, I'm fearful because Rafizi made this mention about Sri Lanka, and saying that.
With Sri Lanka. Sorry, not Bangladesh. What am I saying?
Yeah, Sri Lanka. So what happened in Sri Lanka is something which we hope Malaysia doesn't follow. And of course, Sri Lanka, the circumstances are different, but the crisis could be similar, right? And in Malaysia, the root cause is apart from corruption, it's also political instability, or rather, political instability is a indirect result of corruption and people who want that kind of economy to be.
The corruption causes the political instability.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Corruption
Naturally.
causes
that makes
the
sense.
political
Yeah,
instability.
yeah,
Hence,
yeah.
investors pull out because they feel as if
Yeah.
like, why should we invest in a country that's not stable?
Yeah,
Because you can't even get your, excuse my French, can't get your shit together. So why should we be a part of this show, right?
Yeah,
Hence, they pull out lah.
yeah. So I think we don't know yet how things will be. We hope things will get better, but there are telltale signs lah. And I think
Telltale signs of what? The good or the bad? You know what I mean?
Of Thanos.
of Thanos, that it could go bad. Hopefully not, but to shift us from this trajectory of going down the road of Sri Lanka, we have to have some fundamental changes. So these fundamental changes need to happen through Parliament, and that's why we signed this MOU with the government to get 18 things done. So we're left with about 4. And all 4 involve Parliament. So anti-hopping law, we have a Parliamentary Services Act, we have limiting the tenure of the Prime Minister to 10 years, and coding, or rather, how do you say, putting all of the changes, all the reforms that we've gained in Parliament into our standing orders. This is the rule book for Parliament. So these 4 things, if we are able to get all 4 things done, then Parliament will be better, Malaysian democracy will be better for it, and hopefully that will set us on a different path.
The trajectory, hopefully.
Yes, hopefully.
I think I've read a bit about you regarding your stance on the anti-hopping bill. You're very for it, right?
I'm for it.
And I was actually thinking, to myself, like, what? I understand the intent of the anti-hopping. I totally get it. It's because like maybe people pay you off more over there. There are many like variable reasons, right?
Why you shouldn't even hop if they want to.
Yeah.
Right?
I understand the reasoning, but what if people change, perspectives change, right? And I'm not saying I'm for it all, like you can't just like lalang like, hey, today I'm for this, tomorrow I'm for something else. totally for it, but it's just that what if people do change?
Resign and fight again.
What if it's part of the anti-hopping bill? I'm just clarification. I'm really not sure. Is it part of it where you resign and then you wait for a couple of years before you go back, or is it just permanently you do not?
If you hop, you're gone.
If you hop, you will lose your seat, but you have a right to contest again.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair.
So then you can say, I have stopped believing in the principles held by this party. I believe in these different principles now, and I feel that it's better for the Rakyat. If the Rakyat agrees with my position, they will vote for me again.
Also, you just
So you
resign.
wait lah. You wait
And
for
you wait
4 years
for-
lah.
No. You can contest again.
Oh, okay.
You just
So
okay.
they
resign when
will
you
have
contest,
a by-election.
I understand.
Yeah. So
Sounds reasonable.
yeah. So it's about the principle. If you say you're so good, if you say the position you take is so good, you want to help the Rakyat, etc., etc.,
it would show.
then
Surely
will the
you can
Rakyat
win.
support you or not?
Yeah.
So go and test again.
It's like
That's fair.
So
I just wanted to be clear about that. I remember I read it somewhere.
yeah.
Out of my sheer curiosity, right? So what I understand is we recently had your Johor state elections. From a Pakatan Harapan perspective, didn't exactly do very well.
We did. So like I said, I referenced years.
Yep.
So to 1999, 2004, 2008, etc. Malacca and Sarawak is like 2004. We were wiped out. But Johor, it was like 2013. So in Johor specifically in 2013, 2008, PKR had 0 seats in Johor. 2013, we had 1 seat.
Right.
So it's not like 2004, we were totally wiped out.
Yeah.
But it's like 2013 where we had 1 seat.
Understand.
So we have now, our last stand is at this place called Bukit Batu, a seat that I helped to defend.
Gotcha.
So it's not, so you could say to some extent that the tide has not fully turned, but we have to some extent slowed that.
I see where you're coming from. But I guess from a general elections coming up second half of this year perspective, what is PKR's or Pakatan Harapan's overarching strategy to actually win?
Yeah. So a lot of it is what we've discussed earlier, things related to housing, things related to cost of living, things that people see right now. This is one thing which, as the communications director for PKR, something which I learned, you can talk about concepts like reform
Right.
and institutional changes, but people can't eat that. People can't taste it. People can't touch it.
people don't understand it so, man.
Yeah. So we have to speak in a way and do things that people can see and feel while still being true to these principles. We still do those things, to reform, but to pass certain acts, to change the law. But we've also got to focus on
The tangibles in a way. Right?
the things that hurt people most now.
Yep.
It's about wages, cost of living, housing, transport, very seemingly boring things. But the thing is, I think with a lot of people in Pakatan Harapan and even PKR, the way we look at things is slightly different. I don't think you will find as many advocates for renewable energy on the BN side, on
Right.
the other sides.
I
Right?
see.
But, we had Yobiin, for example, who laid out a preliminary roadmap for having more renewable energy in Malaysia. So that got the ball rolling. We don't necessarily need to talk about all of these policies, but people need to be able to see at the end of the day, how does this benefit them? Okay, but more concretely, I think it's about balancing between the need to have, it's not just a minimum wage, but I think what a lot of younger MPs are talking about also, especially from Pakatan Harapan, it's a living wage. You can have 1,005, but 1,005 in downtown KL, that's tough,
Yeah, yes.
So actually in 2018, the Department of Statistics came out with a list. If you are a single person, if you're not married, bujang, living in KL, your living wage is somewhere in the 4,000 ringgit range. If you're married without kids, then it's about 6,000. If you're married with kids, a certain number of kids, then it's this amount. If you're living in Klang Valley.
Yep.
So I think we've got to change what we talk about as well. Minimum wage really doesn't cut it in Klang Valley. So how do you make sure that people can pay more without businesses being affected so much until they have to raise prices? So it's a kind of like do damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yes.
So like ditelan mati mak, di luah mati bapak, kind of. You're hurt both ways.
That's the peribahasa will give you A in new peso.
Yeah, that's right.
True that.
Yeah.
Wow,
I got a
it's so
C5 actually for my bahasa. I got a C5.
C5.
C5. That's it.
I got a C all the way to
Yeah.
UPS RPM.
I got B lah. I don't even know how.
Wait, you got a C for your BM?
all the
See,
way.
this is the education system lah. That's
You
why
also
we
got
have to
C,
reform. Yeah, I got a C. I got a C5.
God damn.
But then I re-educated myself.
Like ni tak boleh ni, you know. Fahmi, I want to ask you, right? See, I've seen a lot of videos on Facebook when the ministers or politicians goes to the parliament and then they debate, right? All right. I've seen jokers debating interesting
man,
stuff,
actually it's-
right? Like,
It's very primitive.
how are these people, even the people governing us, and what the hell is going on there? Why is it like I've seen this dude? I don't know what's his name, but I'm going to censor. He told you. He said that in a parliament, and then there were people sleeping in the parliament.
Oh yeah, man.
It just doesn't give me the confidence. Like, are things actually going seriously in the parliament, bro?
So
What's up? You know?
a lot of people feel that MPs are superhuman, that MPs are demigods. MPs are larger than life. MPs are people, right? They're you and me. Some of them may be smarter, some of them may be richer, some of them may be
Not so fortunate or whatever. No?
yeah, right. But they're still people with flaws, and some of these flaws get accentuated in parliament because it's 222 people out of 33 million people
Talking.
who are elected to represent the country. So it's you have it's very focused. So everyone's looking at you all the time. It's like being under a petri dish, on a petri dish, being under a microscope. So why? There was an interesting article, I think I can't remember the news outlet, but there's six of the poorest districts in Sabah, and who the MPs are, right? So it's very interesting because I just came back from Sabah, but there was this article. I think it was in the
blame the
Vibes.
MP or something?
No, but they're just saying that coincidentally, these 6 MPs who are also relatively wealthy represent 6 of the poorest districts in Sabah.
I see.
So
There's disconnect.
yeah, but,
Disconnect?
well, or rather, you could say, maybe they can be the MPs because
They have that
yeah,
wealth.
could be.
You
So
could make that argument.
yeah, and you want to talk about civic education. How do we show people that they need to care about their vote when nasi pun tak ada, api pun tak ada, internet pun tak ada.
There was a podcast I listened to about a girl who defected from North Korea, and she was saying, how North Korea doesn't make you complain. They either kill you or they starve you, so that when you're starved,
Then you can't
don't
fight
have
back.
energy to think as well.
Yeah.
And you don't have energy to think because you don't have food. You never revolt anyway, right? So technically, if you don't even have the bare minimum, why complain? Because you're just looking for your next meal, technically, right?
And then
Sad, man.
any small thing is like wow,
Yep.
wow kind of thing. So it's a challenge. So just like I said, it's we live in a beautiful country, but there are also these great discrepancies.
It's a
these-
reverse Robin Hood sometimes
this,
as well.
this great disconnect in parts of Malaysia. So when so for PKR, for Keadlian, for example, we're the People's Justice Party, Parti Keadlian Rakyat, and Anwar in a lot of our discussions and our meetings, his focus is always on how is it that how are we going to fight for the little guys? What are the problems here? How do you address the problems faced by petani, by the nelayan, by the people in the poorest, But at the same time, in a lot of places, money politics is, that's the name of the game. So how do we fight for reforms in these places in a way that is meaningful for them in order for them to be uplifted out of poverty? So in my own little experience in Lembah Pantai, we started an experiment. Whether this is very good book by Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo, I think the name of the
Hero.
second
Daughter.
author.
What's the name of the book?
Energy, Banerjee.
Abhijit Banerjee, ABHI
Amitabh Bachchan.
JIT. Banerjee, Banerjee.
American economist.
Yes, and Esther Duflo. So it's called Good
Wow.
Economics. Good Economics for hard times. Yeah. So it's a really good book. So there are Nobel laureates for economics, and they talk about how using randomized control trials (RCTs) are a good way to assess whether certain forms of government intervention to alleviate poverty really work or not.
Oh, interesting.
So I highly recommend this book. It's maybe about 1 or 2 years ago, but you can find it in Kinokuniya and any good bookstore. And it just talks about how when the government spends like something like 1 billion ringgit a year, more than 1 billion ringgit a year for welfare,
Yep.
is that an efficient way of helping people get out of poverty? Or is it keeping them in poverty?
I imagine it to be quite
Interesting.
difficult, actually, now that you mention it, because if let's say you are a really, really wealthy MP of this really, really poor area, right? District, is it district? Area? District? If you're this really wealthy MP of this really poor district, what do you do? Technically, like how do you start? I mean, is it majority nelayan and then you pour money into, I don't know, facilities, cleaning up the place, making it easier for them? And then it looks as if like, is this money clean because you are...
Yeah.
There's a lot of like...
There's a lot of questions, because that's why if we have these...
So it's a show and tell thing, technically.
It is. So I took a kind of like a leaf out of this book and tried to do some kind of experiment in Lembah Pantai,
Yeah.
where until the Sheraton move happened lah, but we were trying to get 100 families out of poverty. So the idea would be sustainable social mobility. And what it means is, see, when we have PPRs, public housing projects, Project Perumahan Rakyat, when it was first started in the mid-90s, it was not meant to be permanent housing. It's really meant for people to come in and after 7-10 years,
Move out and
they
then
move out. Then the next,
It's like a
so
machine.
while you're in, you will get all the necessary help for you to get out.
Understand.
Instead, what happened was it became a form of, largesse to disburse. You get a house. It's like Oprah, but not kind of. So now we have only 40,000 units left, and there are 60,000 applicants. So no, we are not 40,000. I think we have
Probably
nearly
more.
100,000
Yeah.
units. But then there's 60,000 people waiting, and it's not sustainable, right? So for me, a big, urgent, necessary question is, how do you deal with the problem of urban poverty? You can't just give money because that's not sustainable. It's like just giving people fish.
Yes.
And it's not only teaching people how to fish. Now we've got to, because of the climate crisis, we've got to ask the question of what kind of fish, where should we fish, and what is that supply chain kind of that we have to think. So this is the
How
analogy.
it all links, right? Because
It all
technically
links.
you can't just...
Yeah. So I took, this is one family I visited in Taman Sri Sentosa, just not far from here.
Pretty close by.
And when I went to the house, husband and wife, this is around the time of the pandemic, when the pandemic first started. And the husband worked in a hospital nearby, and he couldn't go to work, so they had no money. And then in the house, when I walked into the house, they had no furniture. They had a mattress on the floor.
What?
There was, tika getah. If you've been, tika getah. It's just that.
Yep.
And then they have like 8 kids.
What's tika geta, sorry?
Tika getah is like a just a rubber mat.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
which you just buy and then you buy.
Most bare bones thing to sleep on.
very
Oh.
and the
Isn't
kid,
that
yeah.
gymnastic thing?
No.
Oh, no, different one.
Is it the red, blue, yellow
I
one?
think they got money for yoga mats, bro. What is this?
So they have this 1-year-old at that time, and the mother couldn't afford to buy milk, so she was giving the son chrysanthemum tea. So this is poverty here, 5 minutes away from where we are, right?
Wow. She has
So
to give
that's-
chrysanthemum tea.
Yeah.
Can baby drink chrysanthemum tea?
No, they shouldn't.
No
right?
choice, wait.
So she had no. So what I did was, okay, I am going to take and adopt this entire family, and I want to help them get out of poverty. She speaks perfect English. I was like, what happened? Oh, she got laid off because I think partly she was having many babies. So it's like, if you're not having 2 kids, you're not having kids, she's having 8 kids.
All right, she's
So-
carrying the team.
Yes, she's carrying the team. So as partly perhaps as a result, she couldn't find work. So what I did was then move them into a PPR, and then managed to get them some basic implements like oven. So she started baking, and now she's doing well.
Oh, wow.
So the husband still works in the hospital as a security guard, and at least the kids, they have now they're a bit better. So we bought them some furniture, and so ultimately, the thing is, I don't want in 10, 15 years' time, these kids who will grow up will end up back in the PPR.
Yeah, man.
They-
That is like,
But how can you afford to buy a house from Poige?
Correct.
yeah, man.
So all of this is linked, right? And at the end of the day, corruption is priced into our economy. So we've got to fight it.
Dang.
And we've got to change the government. So
For me, how?
GE 15 is our last stand. This is
Why
like,
last then?
This is the last stand.
It's like
because-
the movie, bro. The Last Stand movie.
yeah, last stand.
Like X-Men?
No, it's like
Revenge of the Sith.
yeah, no, not really.
Oh.
No. So this is GE 15 is where
What's that movie? We destroy the Death Star. The first Death Star.
it was a New Hope. A New Hope, they destroyed one Death Star, and then Jedi strike.
Empire's
Return of the Jedi, they destroy another Death Star. So they go through quite a few Death Stars.
Actually, I think there's a Death Star and then there's something else that is related to, sounds like Death Star, but it's not Death Star as
Yeah.
well in the latest
Later one,
revision.
yes, that's right. That
It's not
whole
that good.
planet, which was So I think when what it boils down to is we need, like speaking for myself, we do need people like Kian Ming who have experience and can see where things are going, and is part of this cohort of MPs. We need people like Nurul Izzah, we need people like Rafizi, we need people like Saifuddin who help to keep the CPI low. All of that experience, we need to fight this last fight. This is a kind of Ragnarok. The reason is, if elections doesn't take place this year, then, well, let's see what the courts say, right, about these cases. But if elections are forced on us this year, then this would be our last stand. Otherwise, that price that we inadvertently and indirectly pay for the economy,
Yeah.
that price, how corruption is priced into our economy, that's going to cost us even more. Given that even to pay off all the debt from 1MDB will take us through to 2036.
Jesus Christ.
We have to pay billions every year to pay off the
ridiculous.
debt of 1MDB.
Can't we just ask Najib to give back?
We should.
Damn.
Yeah. So hopefully when he was having, this open house in Istana Kuantan, right? Maybe they had a hey, pay up. I hope. I'm not Fahmi Reza. He's in Brussels.
Wow. Till 2036.
Yeah, I don't think any layman thinks about the fact that corruption is priced into our economy.
See, I never thought about that until today.
Yeah. It's honestly food for thought. Like it's gonna
man.
stick around for a while.
Yeah. So that's why,
So domino effect. And you think about it, it's quite sad actually.
yeah. So what can we learn? We can learn from Singapore on how to have less corruption.
Definitely.
We can learn from other countries. But at the same time, there are people who, because the wages are such, you can't. I'm not apologizing for or justifying that action of asking for corruption, but I can see where it's coming from. They earn so little.
Yep.
But how can they earn more? So these corrections that need to be made, they are fundamental corrections, and whether we will be able to do that in our lifetime, I hope we can. But that's why we must understand the gravity of the moment, this situation. If we let, the dogs out, to reference, a really old song.
Who let the dogs out?
Yeah, a really old song, kind of dated. But if we don't understand that the barbarians are at the gates, that the wolves are at our door, and we just don't do anything, if we don't understand the direness of the situation and the gravity, then we're just going to let it slip away. Like, it's flooding. It's flooding right now. It's flooding outside, but it will come into our house if we don't do anything. So
on
how
the verge of Sri Lanka.
Yeah, we're on the verge. So without being an alarmist, hopefully not. Hopefully we won't go down that way. But we all have to play a part.
So sad, man.
Right, that's why
I
we
feel
are here today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a few more questions. I don't know whether you have time. Do you have time?
Just
Okay.
a bit more, I think. Because my wife is like, hey, where are you?
Hey, relax lah. Just tonton YouTube.
We still have so many questions. Ayo,
I know lah.
maybe I
Synthesize
actually
it.
really want to ask you about the Fahmi Reza one. So I want
Boleh,
to
boleh,
go
boleh.
back,
Can.
go back to that, right? So, and there was actually Chok's friend who sent this question,
Yeah.
and she was asking about how you've been in the same circle as Fahmi Reza, and what is your view on the role of the politically active and critical artists in the landscape of all this? Like, how do you feel about it? Do you think it should be?
It's
or do you think
essential.
it shouldn't be?
It's essential. Arts, a long time ago, there was this debate and this dilemma posed. Seni untuk seni, seni untuk masyarakat. Yeah, this is in the 60s, right? So art for art's sake or art for society's sake. So there's this German playwright and director named Bertolt Brecht. And he said that art is not a mirror that you hold up to society, but rather art is the hammer with which you break that mirror. And it's about, when you understand that art represents the most necessary art of aspects of life, then you know what is worth living for.
Some
Yeah.
Dead Poet Society.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's true.
It is true. It is true.
Art gives you something to live for, right? And it gives meaning. So people like Fahmi, and there are actually a lot of them out there. There's this Sabahan-based collective called Pangrok Sulap, and they make a lot of, I think Syed Saddiq also helps promote some of their work, but they've been around for a while, and they do a lot of block work. And they're kind of very left-leaning artists. And then in a lot of societies, oftentimes artists play a very prominent role in helping to find the words to express how we feel about the moment. Why Fahmi Reza probably represents a sense of the moment is he, in a very simple way,
Sums it up in a way.
sums it up
He does, man.
in a picture,
He does, man.
right? And I think he has been able to do that, and there are people who are able to do that. During the time of Marcos, there were artists who were involved to help with the revolution in the Philippines. In Indonesia, during the Reformasi, there were artists also who helped, called this arts collective called Taring Padi. Taring Padi refers to the edge of, if you were to look at a piece of rice, the sharp edge.
Yeah.
So they call it taring of padi.
Like gigi taring, like sharp, lah, right?
Yeah. So, but taring padi. So it's you never think of it like, but it's a basic thing. So beautiful play on word. And Fahmi, right? There are others in Malaysia who do that kind of subversive, very naughty, mischievous work, and I think it's necessary because we have to fight, and I think he fights for many of us.
He does, man. And I feel like every time there is this controversial whatever that happens on, he is first.
Yeah,
And he is damn good at it. I feel like every time he comes up with an image or like a video or whatever he comes up with, it's always on the dot. That is a representation of exactly how all of us feel.
He wasn't always like that, right?
Is it?
Uh,
He was on Vice, you know. That's insane,
yeah.
man.
I
That is
remember.
insane.
I remember the first time I met him in 2004. Perhaps this is my last story. in 2004, I just come back from the States, filled with this burning sense of fighting for social justice. I was part of, I attended all of these peace rallies, etc., expressing myself. The police are there stopping, people from,
Right.
making sure we're okay. So I come back, and one of the first things I did was join a peace protest outside of Bukit Aman.
How peaceful was it?
On deaths in police custody. So there were a
Oh.
lot of people
Yep.
who had died under dubious circumstances in police custody. So I was there with a group of lawyers, activists, party people to submit a memorandum of protest. And to hide my presence, because remember, my mom at that time, she was the Director General of Bahagian Hal Ehwal Undang-Undang di Jabatan Perdana Menteri.
Yep.
Oh,
wow.
She was the DG in charge of
Oh, man.
the Attorney General's chambers, the Prisons Department, the police. She was the Secretary of the Pardons Board. So she was a very senior
Wow.
position under Mahathir, right? And there I was in front of Bukit Aman.
Nice.
But technically,
And then-
she could have gotten you all right.
I know.
Which is why it's controversial, I think. Yeah.
So I was there to record. So I'm not here participating. I'm recording, but all of us were detained. I was detained So Fahmi Reza was the first to be arrested that morning because he held up a sign, a placard that had a picture of a policeman pointing his gun, at you.
You got arrested for that.
He got arrested for that.
Wow.
So
Damn.
in the process of them arresting him, they tore up his shirt, and he was
Six-pack.
dragged into Bukit Aman, into a Black Maria, and then
God.
a while later, Sivarasa, who in 4 years' time would become an MP. So in 2004, Sivarasa was in front of Bukit Aman, and he was trying to negotiate with the police to let Fahmi Reza out, and they said he was like trying, explain. They shot tear gas. They shot water cannon at him.
Why they shoot the Indian?
But why did they shoot the lawyer?
Yeah, why? Why they shoot the lawyer? Why they shoot the lawyer?
So all of them were dispersed, and then as everyone was dispersing, I was filming people getting arrested.
Right.
And then I filmed Tian Chua getting arrested. So do you guys know Tian Chua?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Can you pull it up?
Yeah. So
How do you spell that?
Tian Chua. Just
So when were you arrested?
no, yeah, that's right.
Chua Tian Chang.
Yeah, Chua Tian Chang. Chua Tian Chang.
Oh.
That's right. That's him.
Oh.
So PKR guy. So some of these pictures you have here are like infamous
Hey,
for Tian Chua.
what's the Getty image? He's arresting.
Wow.
Yes, yes. So he's always been.
Is
He's
that
like
KLCC?
he's always been arrested.
That
lah,
looks like it.
essentially lah. So he was most famous for in 1998. This picture of him sitting in front of an FRU truck. Try and Google FRU truck. TRUCK truck. So
that one.
there, the top left. Yeah,
The left.
that's him. That's him. Right, that's Tian Chua. So his protest is like Tiananmen. So
Just
so
sit there.
he was arrested lah. But so Tian Chua in 2004. So this picture is like 20. This is 98. But in 2004, we were in front of Bukit Aman, and Tian Chua was getting arrested. I was there filming, and then there was a police officer who turned around to me and said, "You ingat ni kelakar ya? Tangkap dia." Tangkap me lah.
Yo.
So I was arrested, and I was like,
Oh,
"Oh my
man.
god, where am I going? Oh no, I have never been arrested before. Oh gosh,
Bro, why you never run away, bro?
no."
Running away might be worse.
It's like, it's like at that time, I actually, to be honest, if you, I don't wish it upon people, but to know what it feels like, I wouldn't recommend getting arrested,
But you should get arrested.
to know what
empathize.
it's like, to know what it's like, and whether the system works or doesn't work, right? So So yeah. So then all of us were arrested. So there were 34 people. And then so Latifah Koya was arrested.
Oh, we were in
myself,
Black Maria.
all of us were in the Black Maria.
Wow, it's like a little party.
Yeah.
Sounds to me like things never changed, right? Remember we talked to
Nalina,
Nalina.
right?
She got
Same
arrested
story.
doing a protest. So 20 years ago, you guys got arrested
yeah.
doing a protest.
Yeah. But the difference is now, after all the
Lines of fear that you've crossed.
yes that we've crossed, things have gotten a lot better. So we may not see the kind of heavy-handed
Police
action.
brutality also lah. I think last time I think you probably is a lot worse, man.
Yeah.
You just don't see, man. Now
yeah.
they are scared.
It's all behind closed doors.
Yeah. What, dude? He ripped his shirt, man. It's damn savage, man.
The tampa. Oh, relax.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So that is yeah. So if there's one thing I would say to cap things off, it's
Art is necessary.
art is necessary. Like I will never be part of a revolution that won't let me dance.
Wow, that is...
So poetic.
Where you getting all this ayat lah, bro?
Yeah, you can look for inspirational quotes. no. But also equally seriously.
That's true though, I feel.
Yeah.
If you were to restrict people of creative freedom,
Yeah.
it's a tragedy, right? If you
Yeah.
think about it.
It is. Yeah.
And if
So
you look at I remember there was a... I don't know who bought
imagine one day you're here interviewing whoever. Suddenly the police come and hopefully not lah, touch wood.
Yeah.
Right. Like come and knock on the door and say,
I'm like...
and then all of you and everything is there used to be a time that could happen, but because we constantly and consistently stepped over that garis takut, and then 2018 happened.
Yep.
So when we look at the greater arc of things, right, this trajectory of how we've progressed over the last 20 years, we have made progress, but it's important that we don't slide. That whatever gains we've gotten, if we were to relax our guard, if we were to allow things to happen like they used to be, then it could go down the way of Sri Lanka, etc. Right? So we all have a part to play. Small ways, big ways, little ways, meaningful ways, chipping away at that block to make sure that Malaysia becomes a better place for all of us. And, you get to do your startup thing. Poige gets to sell more houses. Right?
That's right.
John gets to propose.
Yeah.
Right? And we all get to live our respective versions of our Malaysian dream.
I'm so sad that you gotta go. I feel
Yeah, we
It
have
is
like
quite heartbreaking.
we got like 3-4 more hours left of conversation.
If I,
You know,
if I
I
have
know- I
enough
know.
coffees in Taman Tun, will I bump into you?
Yes.
serious, ah?
That's
Where's
really
your favorite coffee place?
There's some pretty good ones. In Bangsa, there's this place called APW.
Oh, bro, Pulp.
Pulp.
Pulp is
Yeah,
my number one.
Pulp is really good.
Pulp is
Then,
my go-to.
But there's this place in SS4 called Dodo.
Dodo Bake.
Dodo Bake.
Dude, Dodo Bake is such a long line.
Yeah. So you have to go at 7:30.
Yeah, man.
Okay, I'll see you there at
That's-
7:30 then, yeah.
Yeah. That's when my wife and I go. and there used to be a nice place in Kamuja called Transparent Coffee.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's
It's gone.
They just moved.
Yeah.
They're no longer in
They're no
Bangsa.
longer there.
So
So
sad.
yeah,
Coffee
but-
by day, bar by night, I think, that place.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then there's this really nice place. They used to be known as it's by this drummer. His name is Alang. It's in Damansara Heights. But they're also at Zongshan. Wisma Zongshan.
Is it Pew Pew Pew?
Yeah. That's the one.
Bro.
That,
Pew
that's the
Pew
best.
is my number one, man. Actually.
That's the best.
I
That's
take
the
that back.
best.
I don't like Pulp lah. I
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
like
yeah. Pew,
that
pew,
guy
pew.
is super cool as
Oh,
well.
he's the best.
Yeah, man.
I love him.
He actually did his dirty matcha coffee based on the place in Tokyo.
Ah,
Yeah, I love that guy.
Ask him to do a cortado.
What's a cortado?
I guess we'll find out. Huh?
Oh, nice.
You wait. A cortado, a Gibraltar. It's the same thing. One is East Coast, one is West Coast. Oh, never mind.
No,
It's like a piccolo. It's like a piccolo,
okay.
okay.
but it's better.
Okay. I'll take you up on that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Ask
All
him.
Well,
Okay.
thanks for being with us, Fahmi.
We really
Great.
appreciate it. You had
man.
a great time.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's a great
Honestly,
pleasure.
we were supposed to do it like 1.5 hours. I told that to his PA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Guess you're a liar.
And not gonna happen.
It's almost 2:40. But I really feel like we could have asked a lot more. I'm so sad.
Yeah. I
Next
know.
time, after
Next time.
after
Can,
you
can,
guys
can,
win the
can,
G15,
Can.
then I'll get you guys
Can.
back.
It'll be a celebratory session.
Yes. Inshallah.
Yeah.
God willing.
Thanks so much for being here with
Thank
us,
you,
Fahmi.
And Selamat Hari Raya.
Selamat
Oh,
Raya.
Selamat
Take care.
Raya.
I thought habis already.
Okay,
Haven't habis
habis.
ah?
No, like it's a month long. It's like Chinese New Year, bro.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Everything now. Even Deepavali now.
It's just like 1 month.
Months long. It's months on end. Thanks, guys.
Hey,